Hi, this is Craig Huxley again. It's now the 26th of October 2008 and it's currently 02:26 in the morning GMT. Right, let's deal with Alex CIA Jones of this Infowars.com and all these many other outlets which have got mass bandwidth, very costly bandwidth, right? So let's start with why he is quoted, right, from Carol Quigley's work. While we're at it, right, and we also see how his new buddy Alan Watt does just the same. They never speak though of who Carol Quigley really was. Carol Quigley was a professor of political history at the main Jesuit military fortress in the United States. This is the same powerhouse that truly controls the United States, linked of course with regional assistant James E. Grummer, Jesuit. It's the same Georgetown University where Quigley trained the groomed puppet that you know as William Clinton, one of the recent US presidents. The same Clinton who's tied to Arkansas, and just look at the Maltese Rockefeller control down there, you know. It's the same Quigley who Clinton constantly refers to and admires. And who else did Clinton admire highly? Why, it was Otto Hens, that another Jesuit, Hentz. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You know, what a shock. Roman stench once again. Has Alex Jones, right, and company ever told you that? Well, I've never heard him, you know. Clinton was so Catholicised that he even wrote like a Catholic according to this Hens guy, this Jesuit soldier. What does that tell you? I mean, this Quigley is the same Jesuit stooge who helped push the communism fraud. You know, the scare, like they're doing today with all this new, what the term terrorists, you know. It's just the same thing as a communist, you know. Anyone who doesn't go along with their agenda is a terrorist, or in the old days it was a communist. You know, and soon it's going to be a communist terrorist when they start all the phony war with, like, you know, Russia and stuff. What they've started conditioning us with so far. So we have these so-called patriots, right, quoting works of Jesuit stooges, mixed with this Cliveden set that they control, you know. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, there's all information, there's much meat, as they say, but they must tell you who these people really are, and they're not doing this. Carol Quigley puts all the blame on this Cliveden set network, focusing on, you know, here, where I'm at, Great Britain, as if, like, the UK is the head of this snake, or the dragon, which in fact it just isn't. I mean, that reminds me of that covert agent LaRousse, that one recently who was blaming the British Empire's controlling everything. They're the cause of the destruction of America and everything. Well, it's a part truth, it's a big truth, but it's not the full truth. This LaRousse again, yet another Jesuit stooge, veiling the Jesuits out of the equation once again, like they all do, putting blame on another group of people and not themselves, you know. I mean, no wonder Alan Watt, a new buddy of Alex Jones, constantly dodges talking on the Jesuit order, and if he does, it's never in any proper depth, you know. It's like a quick thing and then he brushes over it with some other subject totally not relevant, you know. The same Alan Watt who at one time made out all these large patriot shows and internet famous conspiracy exposers were safe, controlled stooges. He said that. The same Alan Watt who told you anyone who's been on the television, right, is safe and controlled. So what you doing with Alex Jones, Mr. Watt? I mean, it's unbelievable, the hypocrisy there, isn't it? And I don't wish to hear, Alan, the nonsense that it's because I have the freedom to speak on what I wish on these shows. It's bunkum. Anyone with morals wouldn't associate with Alex Jones, and especially after what you've been claiming in the past. So from now on, I'm also labelling you, Alan Watt, as an agent, as a temporal coadjutor, merely someone who could be a more safe bet, right, for those who wouldn't fall for B-movie actor Alex Jones and all his antics. Once the more intelligent people were suckered in, then Alan Watt joins the Alex Jones clique. I mean, you've got to wake up to these Maltese intelligence networks, CSIS and CIA games that's being played here. Let's not forget, right, what Alex CIA Jones, did when he sized up John Gray's house place, where there was that, and he sold him out to ABC's 2020. This is the same ABC behind this CIA Genesis network hosting Alex Jones. The same ABC controlled by bloody Cardinal Egan and his Council on Foreign Relations, So when Jones comes out and claims, oh well, everybody has to use an Illuminati company system sometime, or another, well, not everybody then deals direct with those companies by selling them news, do they? I have to use, I'm not going to say the brand, but a big well-known corporation for my internet provider, for instance, but I don't go then having direct deals as such with my provider, do I? This corporation. But Alex does. I mean, what a dodgy character we have here, And I mean, let me quote to you, right, a small letter from John Gray that I've got here on a piece of paper, right? Let me have a look now. Here's what he has to say. I'm just going to do one big quote. So it's, quote, a story I can tell you about Ted Anderson and Alex Jones, the Genesis Communications Network. I don't know if you are familiar with my situation here in Trinidad, Texas or not, but my name is John Joe Gray. I've been in a standoff with the highway bandits since January the 8th, 2000, when I was released from jail. We got word the authorities were coming in on us in August of 2000. Alex Jones and Mike Hansen came out late that night and did some videotaping at the gate. Alex promised me this would only be used for documentary purposes when this was all over. We had several witnesses to this. Alex came back twice within a week or so and wanted to film more. He also assured us again none of the video would be shown anywhere. Alex later called and asked about 2020 interviewing me. I did the interview at my gate, not down at my house. Alex kept asking me to let 2020 video at my house, which I kept telling him no. I told Alex he was the only one I had let video around the house, and that was only for a documentary. The day 2020 was to air my story, Alex called me and said he had done something very wrong. He had let 2020 have the video. They aired it, then Patriots came and talked to me. John Stadtmiller being one of them. I told that Alex said he had sold the video to 2020 for $700 a few days later. Alex and Mike showed back up out here, wanted to know how we could work this out. I told Alex just to apologise to me and to get on the air and apologise and tell the Patriots what he had done. Alex was afraid the bad Patriots would take him out. Those were his words. I talked with John on the air about people betraying me and mentioned Alex's name. After I got off the air, a guy by the name of Keith, who knew Alex, came on the air. Keith said Alex told him that he had signed a contract with me. John wanted me to come back on air to verify if this was true. When I called back, Ted Anderson would not let John put me back on air. After the show, I called Ted Anderson at his request. He wouldn't let me talk on the air because he didn't want his hosts to be squabbling on the air. I just wanted to verify that I didn't sign a contract or give Alex my permission to air the video on 2020. This guy Keith also said on the air that day that Alex received $25,000 for the video he sold to 2020. We found out later that Alex had sold the video to 2020 before coming back the second time. This is what Alex told us. We should know them by their fruits. You cannot serve two masters. God be with you and keep you and bless your network. Signed, Joe, Alicia and family. So that's the letter that this guy wrote. And so, I mean, there you have it. What a nice man this Alex CIA Jones and friends really are behind the scenes. Let's now get on to the Bohemian Grove topic, You know, this great Bohemian Grove, the be-all and end-all according to Alex Jones. Just another minor group, you know, in the reality, the whole scheme of things. But it's big to Alex Jones. So, you've got this Bohemian Grove, right? Alex tries to claim godlike status, claiming he broke into the event, you know, this Bohemian Grove event. I mean, yes, we have video footage from within, but broke in? I mean, do you honestly believe Alex Jones broke in unawares? Of course not. Do you think this big Maltese event in the United States wouldn't get to know of this coming? Consider Alex Jones utilised a television station, a television station from here in the UK called Channel 4. Channel 4, the same Channel 4 which is one of the biggest promoters of the New World Order agenda, or the Big Brother, the first to promote Big Brother, the reality show, the show that's plugging all this homosexuality, is it Rick and Steve show or whatever, and all these stupid reality shows and sick programmes, you know. That's Channel 4. He takes this Channel 4 show on the road to Bohemian Grove with him. He went with a bloody Maltese television station, Channel 4. And this Mike handsome guy, right, to infiltrate Bohemian event, right? I mean, get real people, right? It's all part of British intelligence's clever tactics to draw the slightly awakening sheeple, then control them from then on, you know. I mean, whilst keeping them also in a lower down state of awareness. But then they actually think that they know everything, you know, which makes them more dangerous, you know, to themselves. So Alex Jones is put forth to get many aware of what's to come on the ground level and basically accept and even crave it. So yes, people actually now are craving martial law so they can prove to the doubters and family members, and I mean, look, I was right when it happens, you know, we've got martial law now, I was right, I told you this last month, I told you this a year ago, you know. I mean, the Maltese controllers also are using it as a test, the watertight procedure, right. This tells them how the populace, right, will react and how far the people will go to actually stop it. They also know what tricks and veils to put on something next time over. So basically, if they come out with something and then you say, no, you can counteract it with this herb, they'll then get round that herb or come up with something else different. And that's how they work. So they're testing the water, right, and it's telling them how the populace is going to react and how far people are going to go to actually try and stop it, or if at all. They also know what tricks and veils to put on something next time over, like I've said, you know. This is again how British intelligence work, who command their intelligence branch, the CIA, and their Israeli branch, the Mossad. It's all British intelligence. So we have this video footage, right, from a Bohemian Grove, right, which actually shows almost nothing of worth. It's crap at the end of the day. And you've got Alex claiming he was confronted about several times by security, including this Secret Service, you know. When Secret Service the security he's confronted several times apparently, right, but his videotapes had run out, or whatever prosthetic lame excuse he came out with similar to that. There was only 1 hour long or something like that. Basically, right, the only thing that was of any worth as such was this cremation of care. And I mean, that's nothing to what people claim really goes on in the woods. So you got pittance from the staged event, not the Bohemian Grove event, from the stage event of Alex Jones, you know. I mean, why did he forget to tell you about the Catholic patron saint of the Grove, which is John of Nepomuk, Nepomuk, and his massive 20-foot statue symbolising secret and secrecy? I mean, that came from when he didn't tell, apparently, the secrets of the Bohemian Queen. Why don't Alex Jones tell you that Catholic side? This is nothing more than another event to make Alex Jones look like he's on your side, on our side, you know. It's also very interesting to note that ABC is controlled by Walt Disney. Who helped merge Walt Disney and ABC together? None other than a Roman Catholic, what a shock, by the name of Ignacio E. Lozano, Lozano Jr. The same guy who was trained at Notre Dame and was a director of Disney up until 2001. What else is very important about this man, right, is none other than he is a member of the Bohemian Club, i.e. Bohemian Grove, right? I mean, has that lighted your wicks at all? I mean, it sure as mine, you know what I mean? Again, another example of the Bohemian exposure sham, the scam, you know, this staged event. They wanted you to know it and see it. What else is special about Lozano Jr.? Well, he's also a director of the Jesuit majority-controlled Bank of America, the largest bank in the United Corp States, for God's sake. Do we see all this Catholic connection yet? Are my dots, right, joinable as usual? Because I surely do, and others do. I mean, look at Lorenzo Jr.'s daughter, Monica C., also tied to the board of Disney. Notice her connections, right, to the American International Group, AIG, one of the largest drug-dealing Central Intelligence Agency companies ever in existence, linked with, you know, that Sabbatean Frankist Maurice Hank Greenberg, Maltese Knight. What a shock. Tied to Knights of Malta, David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger. Again, both Maltese Knights. Got to emphasise this, you know. All three of them subordinate to the Archbishop of New York, Edward Egan. Then at Patrick's Parish Cathedral. Let's not forget this David Westin, W-E-S-T-I-N, the president of ABC, right, who has ties to Jesuit military fortress Supreme, the Georgetown University in Washington DC, overseeing the nation's capital city. Capital with an O-L instead of an A-L, you know. I mean, that reminds me of one of these 7 harlot hills of Rome called Capitoline Hill. I mean, I wonder why that was. That DC, Washington DC, was taken off the land of Rome in Maryland, right where the Capitol building stands upon. The same place of land owned by Francis Pope and Daniel Carroll, both Roman Catholics, tied to George Washington. George Washington and Roman Catholic. Is that where Texie Mars was going the other day when he says that Jesuits, we know Jesuits had a hand in the founding of the United States, but he don't tell you the details, does he? So Daniel Carroll was Jesuit trained down in France and at this St Alma's College. I mean, who was the first Catholic bishop in the United States? Why, it was Daniel's brother John Carroll, the same John Carroll who founded this bloody ultra-powerful military fortress, Georgetown University, the one forgot all too much by Alex Jones and co, you know. Why did the Roman Catholic Daniel Carroll sign the Declaration of Independence? So what else is this David Westin connected to? He's connected to Wells Fargo, which is riddled with Catholic lackeys, such as Georgetown University's Professor Cynthia H. Milligan, Milligan. What about Lloyd H. Dean, the Catholic part of this Catholic Health Association of the USA? Catholic Health. I can't see that, can you? And also Catholic Healthcare West. That's pushing the Maltese drugs, you know. But what about chairman of St Mary's College of California, that stinking Catholic hole, Nicholas G. Moore, M-O-O-R-E. Note how Moore is a director of Gilead Sciences Incorporated, G-I-L-E-A-D, right, Gilead Sciences. That biopharmaceutical company. Now note the links of Maltese Knight Tony Blair to this same company. Notice how it's been one of very few still doing well during this financial crisis. Notice its ties with the bird flu, and how some claim it's tied to the anthrax mailings, along with that Battalion Memorial Institute down in, I think it's Ohio, isn't it? Note the bird flu, and note how Donald Rumsfeld is tied to Gilead Sciences as well, whilst he's behind the fake Tamiflu poison drug, so-called antidote to the bird flu, when in fact it's useless and always has been. The only thing it's worth is for poisoning people, as the Maltese Knights want. Does that make sense to you now? So who else, right, is on the board of Disney? Leo O'Donovan, right? And he's one of the most powerful Jesuit priests in the United States. Is it any wonder Disney films are riddled with sexual subliminals? But Alex Jones don't tell you that, and Alex Jones is part of it. Now Alex, right, he's in this for the lifestyle and the money, period. He's now petrified that his ratings are going to drop right down. That's if they haven't already. Has anyone else, right, noticed how all his guests recently keep praising his show constantly? We've had that with Jordan Maxwell, we've had that with Lindsay Williams on the 24th, for instance, and others. I mean, are GCN or him going down the pan? I presume this is why they're trying to discredit Eric Felt with lies through their recent attitude, and why they're having to keep constantly praising him. They're worried, folks, and this is why they never had the balls to say Eric's name on the latest attack with Agent Tex Mars. He later screws up, but most of it they never say his name. The so-called Patriot Movement's answer to 33rd degree Billy Graham, in my eyes, is Tex Mars. I'll get on to him a little later though. Have any of you noticed as well how Alex Jones always tries to mix lunacy with any mention of the Jesuit order? He's done it so much over time, it's incredible. He's simply trying to discredit so the sheep don't get onto the subject. Once you get onto the subject, you then see through the Jones in a short space of time, this CIA Jones. You then find people like myself exposing Alex Jones with facts, and then that screws him up, you see. Alex detests us in the anti-Jesuit crowd because we are hot on what we're doing. We can dish the dirt like no other group out there at all our enemies. We give dates, times, true history and places, whereas others just do minor brushing and vet it basically. We are, right, true and cannot be controlled by money and power. These Maltese Knights like to buy all the true patriots off, right, or so-called wannabe true patriots, and turn them, right, as we saw with Tex Mars over the last 4 years or so. Most of these weak individuals, right, are spouting their mouths off on anti-NWO this and that. When it comes to it though, they're up there for the money and lifestyle, and they actually fear death like these little peons they are. Another trick of Alex Jones and company is to mock the term Jesuit coadjutor. They make out we are calling them actual Jesuits now, part of the actual Jesuit orders directly, when in reality we're not calling them a Jesuit part of the order as such, or a member of it. We're simply stating by this term that they are working for the Pope, either unknowingly or knowingly. If you aid the conspiracy agenda, then you're aiding the Pope's agenda, period. He controls it all with the Jesuits. So if you divert attention from certain groups or conspiracies, then you're aiding the Pope. Then you're this Jesuit coadjutor, or what's also known as a Jesuit short robe. In fact, the real definition of a Jesuit is a clever person who deceives the people. That's in very old dictionaries. But it's taken out of modern dictionaries. Mind you, you can't find nothing in a modern dictionary because it's all dumbed down. The only word you'll find is bling bling, which originates again with the blacks Africanising the white populances of Protestant nations. That's what a Jesuit is. So in reality, all those deceiving are Jesuits. In fact, the soldiers of Loyola merely took on the name, which in fact, in reality, is basically just a piss take to us. They're taking the mickey, they're laughing. They're telling you what they are. The Jesuit order is really the Society of Jesus, right? And they also went under the names of the Knights of the Virgin. Previously, it was also the Los Alumbrados of Spain. And no, it's not a crypto-Jew conspiracy, as these Jew bashers would like you to believe, these Zionist bashers, wanting to keep the theory alive, the dead theory going. So, another trick to fool you and themselves into accepting a papacy trick on the people, blaming these Hofjudens. For example, an Hofjuden is a court Jew, the Jews that work for the Pope, the ones all in positions of power. If you want to know more on the Hofjuden, then just listen to my audio titled Vatican Hofjuden. I'll go into it a lot more in there and tying back to Roman Catholicism at the core. If we go back to Ali, can somebody please explain to me why we should believe anything he's got to say? Because if you look, he's appeared on numerous television shows, including the Fox News network, the same network ruled by Maltese Knights through British intelligence, controlled by an SIS agent, Rupert Murdoch, who's a Roman Catholic Knight of Malta, and he's a Knight of St Gregory the Great. Give me a break. Himself, he controlled by the Small Americas Navigator, the Archbishop of New York City, along with the Jesuit New York Provincial. and obviously James E. Grummer. We've also seen Murdoch. He was down at Georgetown University on the 3rd of April of this year, 2008, down at his masters, the Jesuits. Why are you on Fox News, Alex Jones? Is it because you're totally safe and controlled? Best of it is, right, Alex has slagged off Fox News in the past, but now he's using it. It reminds me of this Kurt Nemo guy, one of Alex's sidekicks. Kurt once said, quote, "It is fair to assume the Pentagon and the CIA are burrowed deeply inside newsrooms around the country, especially the higher echelon corporate newsrooms at Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, etc." End quote. Now tell me why Kurt still associates with Alex Jones after that statement. Doesn't this show you the hypocrisy of these agents, these people, these devious ones? They expect you to worship them like gods and forget all the deviousness going on and what's gone on. The same for Alex appearing on B-Sky B over here in England. You know, B-Sky B is a network once again, controlled by Roman Catholic Murdoch. What a damn hypocrite, as we keep seeing through this broadcast of mine. I mean, why do I smell, when we talk about this Fox News, why do I smell Roman Catholic, Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly all of a sudden? Do you remember when Alex was on Fox News recently with that Taudelt, Taudelt, Geraldo Rivera, right, or Geraldo, whatever they want to call him, right, the same Geraldo who slagged Jones off previously, in a British intelligence game of bad guy and good guy, and discrediting the 9/11 truthers? This is Alex's game, right, with this We Are Change group, and they're mostly made up of decent people trying to do good and believing they are. Unbeknown to them, though, they're part of a British intelligence agenda. It's an amazing control system, right, of manipulation of people, and they don't grasp it, and even people that are waking up haven't grasped it yet. So Alex Jones is there throwing all these CIA funds out to these poor people who are then going off on planes, etc., to locations, sometimes actually even putting their lives at risk, such as when they've gone down to Ed Brown's location in that scene. So Alex, he's all fine as he sits there eating his poison beer on his fat chair, whilst people are in the midst of danger, trying or thinking they're doing good. Wake up, people! God's sake. What about Alex Jones on the British Intelligence Broadcasting Network, the BBC? We call it the Blair Broadcasting Network, Maltese Blair Broadcasting Corporation, along with, of course, other shells such as the History Channel. So we've had Alex Jones on the BBC network that he's supposedly highlighting and things like that. What else has Alex Jones been on the television? What stations? He's been on bloody Russia Today. He's been on C-SPAN. He's been on CBC. He's been on CNN. And he's been on MTV and a whole host of others. So is he controlled or not? Alex Jones, right, why do you favour Catholics so much? What about Mel and Hutton Gibson? What about their ties to Opus Dei, supposedly the work of God? Not the God of Adonai, but the God of Lucifer, such as William J. Fulco. This is Mel and Hutton Gibson, the Gibson family. What about Hutton's love of the temporal power of the Pope, and the hate of those who don't like it? What's temporal power? It's global governance. It's the Pope ruling all nations, presidents, monarchies and governments, and their sheeple populances. I mean, Alex, did you or did you not promote the wicked anti-AV 1611 film by Mel Gibson and Fulcro, along with that Roman Catholic priest Jonathan Morris, that film called The Passion, that wicked film? What about how Catholic Mel Gibson attacked the Jews? Doesn't that remind you of the Catholic doctrine and of that Oppo same Texi Mars that you love? So tell me why you've gone on so much about Braveheart, the same film by Roman Catholic Mel Gibson. Why do you forget to point out, Alex, how Robert the Bruce was a Roman Catholic along with the wicked King Longshanks? Why don't you point that out? The Gibsons are nothing more than cretinous Luciferian worshippers, all there worshipping the planet Venus, that Lucy Hawk. What about Charlie and Martin Sheen's ties to the Jesuits? Did you mention how they got the name from a Catholic bishop called Fulton Sheen? The same Martin Sheen, by the way, who's taken the Ignatius Loyola spiritual exercises. How about Martin's ties to a Jesuit soldier named Bill O'Donnell? We've got a picture of him next to Bill O'Donnell, and they're doing some weird ritual or whatever it is in front of like baby coffins, children, babies' coffins, and what looks like blood on it. I don't know whether that's some doctoring and messing or damage to the photograph, or whether it is blood. I don't know. Probably wouldn't surprise me if it is blood. We also heard Martin Sheen narrate the Titanic documentary of National Geographic called The Secrets of the Titanic. Why is it, Alex, that you have never delved into the Jesuit connection with the sinking of the Titanic? I mean, that's linked to the coming of the bloody Federal Reserve you don't like and you go on about, and the death of the likes of John Jacob Astor. What was John Jacob Astor? He was a Jew who didn't want the Federal Reserve. Why do you ignore as well Jesuit Francis Brown's role in making sure all enemies were on board the doomed vessel? Funny, right, how we have this Sheen doing the voiceover, isn't it? And then we see Charlie Sheen, his son, doing the narrating of Loose Change, based on the 9/11 event created and executed by the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. God's sake, let's see how Mel Gibson and Martin Sheen are two of the most powerful Roman Catholics in the whole of Hollywood, along with Denzel Washington, Patrick Heaton, Tyler Perry, Ralph Winter, Angela Bassett, Martha Williamson, Christian Sienoweth, Philip Anschutz, and then you've got Howard Kazanjian and Scott Derrickson. I mean, we see this Denzel Washington an awful lot, not just because he's an African American instead of a black American, promote Africanism to the white Protestant nation, because he's a Roman Catholic. What about your friend and guest Alex Jones, known as Pat Buchanan? What another crook that is. I mean, he's a Knight of Malta working for Cardinal Egan. Why don't you mention this to your paying viewers, Alex Jones, who pay you and their good hard-earned money? Why do you associate with Knights of Malta, phony patriots? Why do you? Who was Buchanan linked with? Another Knight of Malta, Ronald Reagan, the same crook who had a concordat with the Vatican in 1984, after some 119 years. Oh, that's funny, isn't it? 119, let's reverse it, let's do an ISIS reflection on it, and we get 911. What a shock, and it all adds up to the chaotic 11. So it was 119 years back in 1865 that ties was dropped with the Vatican. Why were them ties dropped, Alex Jones? Because of the Society of Jesus and the Vatican's assassination of US President Abraham Lincoln at the hands of Jesuit-trained Sulpician Fathers member Surratt, S-U-R-R-A-T-T. Why don't you talk about that, Alex Jones? So don't go around, Alex Jones, talking about freedoms and anti-NWO this, when your own buddies are tied to the bleeding Pope, who wishes the destruction of our Protestant freedoms, our Reformation freedoms, which you don't harp on about anything to do with Reformation. We also see Pat a lot on the bloody Fox News network. Again, Roman Catholic Murdoch's network. Who's he normally there with? Why, it's Roman Catholic Sean Hannity. What about Pat being a Confederate? What a shock. Reminds you of those Roosevelts and Charles Bonaparte, all Maltese knights as well. The Confederate Jesuit controlled, and their power base is down in New Orleans, where they have the Mardi Gras, all that porn. They go on about Jews with porn, making porn. Who's got the biggest porn collection in the world? The Vatican. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. And the Vatican with their Mardi Gras, which is a celebration of one of their crimes on humanity. And it's the same Confederates who totally ripped America apart in 1901. Well, it weren't America anymore as such, but what I'm saying is they ripped some of the last pieces of anything to do with old America away in 1901 when they assassinated William McKinley. Who was behind that? Teddy Roosevelt, who then became the president and then brought Charles Bonaparte, that other Confederate linked with Napoleon Bonaparte, another Society of Jesus stooge, into the system, and then he created the FBI. Why don't you tell the paying people, Alex? Why don't you tell them that? Why don't you tell them how Pat Buchanan is trained by Jesuits at Gonzaga College, High School, and once again at the ultra-powerful military fortress of Georgetown University. What about Pat's ties to Jesuit John McLennan of the McLennan Group? Why does Pat hide what Pope Pius XII did with the Nazis? Why is that concordat all forgotten, Alex? Why did you just forget it? Of course it is when the Catholics are ruling the United States, utilising ex-Nazis. That's the reality, and that's why Alex Jones don't go there, because they're paying him. The same Nazis removed out with Operation Paperclip, utilising the Bosnian, Croatian, Roman Catholic priest Krusislav Draganovic. D-R-A-G-O-N, Dragon, what a shock, V-I-C. And his first name is K-R-U-S-O-S-L-A-V. And the rat lines were actually named after him, Draganovic rat lines. Alex Jones don't go into that. He mentions Operation Paperclip and a basic, might mention a vague Catholic thing on it, but that's it. Who do we have to thank for this? Well, of course it's the Knights of Malta working for the Pope, the likes of the bloody Grace family. We also see how Pat's father, right, loved Roman Catholic Senator Joseph McCarthy, who was trained at Jesuit Fortress Marquette University in Milwaukee, M-A-R-Q-U-E-T-T-E. McCarthy promoted the false Cold War, whilst the KGB and the CIA actually worked together as usual covertly to keep the fear, and the agenda behind the Cold War and the nukes, to get the nuke program going. I mean, please explain to your paying listeners how Pat Buchanan has worked with and is a friend of Thomas Wardle Braddon. Who is Braddon, folks? Who is he? Well, he's an ex-OSS, Officer of Strategic Services, CIA, coming from British Army. I mean, how fitting is that when the CIA was created by Sir William Stevenson of British Intelligence, and it's controlled by British Intelligence? But what's more interesting is how Braddon played a big part in Operation Mockingbird. Mockingbird. What a shock. Exactly what Alex Jones is doing. We should note that Pat Buchanan was replaced by Roman Catholic convert and sex ring Robert Novak. N-O-V-A-K. Once again, a Catholic. God, that stench of Catholics is damaging my nose like cocaine. Ask George W. Bush about that. He probably knows what cocaine does to his nostrils. That's if he's aware of what's going on around him. Mind you, he's more aware than the other soon-to-be President John McCain, who has to be shot up most likely with glutathione shots because of his brain gone. Now, saying that, I did like that new little spoof, I think that's how you pronounce it, or satire and video of McCain, the rap with Palin and the porno queen wife Cindy McCain, and don't forget all her offshore accounts that are being hidden. But that was quite a funny video. But anyway, now you can see through Alex Jones a little bit more clearly, I hope. So, talking of Knights of Malta, what's Alex Jones doing on CNN-controlled TV? Who owns CNN? A Maltese knight by the name of Ted Turner, who's a great wannabe depopulator. Let's get rid of the populace, there's too many of us. I don't drive great big limousines and Porsches and things like that like Ted Turner does and will. That's polluting the earth, not me. He's the one that's helping keep us stuck on oil when there's free energy out there and other things. So why have I got to go for him? So why again, Alex Jones, do you have a Knight of Malta on your show and as a friend? If you're this great Mr. Protestant from this great Christian background, what a hypocrite and a traitor to your roots and the AV 1611 King James Bible teachings from real scripture, not Babylonian mystery religion. Talking of the mystery religion, what about this Archbishop of the United Catholic Church, Robert Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N? You like your Catholics, don't you, Alex Jones? Why did you have Jordan Maxwell on a few times? Don't you realise that he's actually getting people to follow the mystery religion from his teachings? And then it's crafty, you see, because then it gets people to attack the Bible, which is exactly what the Jesuit wishes, and to put down the information in the Bible. And Maxwell's been a part of that. He's doing this and he's covering himself by some of his Catholic exposure to help back him up to the profane people who are not in the know what's going on. And I was one of them in the past as well, I admit. The same Catholic information is purposely mixed with disinformation to screw up the Vatican exposure somewhat. And us people, example is when he claimed the Jesuits created Islam. Wrong, the papacy created Islam. The Jesuits weren't around for another 900 years or so. Islam was out before even the Knights Templar. And then even the Knights of Malta were older than the Knights Templar. Only by Luciferian 5 years, but they're still older. Not many people that talk about that. The Templars, the Great Templars are the biggest, the oldest. No, they're not. Rubbish. I'll talk about Jordan Maxwell a little bit later, but not too much on him. He has done a lot of good, and he has helped me out in the past as well. But at the end of the day, he's still an agent. So what about your trip down to Roman Catholic St Edward's Jesuit University, Alex? That reminds me how your stooge opposite buddy Ron Paul was down at Jesuit Military Fortress, Seattle University, back in September 2007. How can anyone claiming to be a Christian enter such a place of Luciferian worship? Whilst on the subject, Alex, right, why don't you explain to your profane sheep or following your Pied Piper flute what true Christianity is? You throw your Christianity background around but never explain the big difference between true Christianity, the King James authorised AV 1611 Bible, and the Luciferian false pagan Mithra Catholicism, now using the false Jesuit Douay Bible, Douay. Explain this one, Alex, and explain all the false Christians sucking up to Rome and shielding its followers from truth. Explain why so-called Christians will no longer expose the Antichristos leadership Pope. All false Christians masquerading as Christians, and some even believe they are Christians. It's that bad now. Again, if we wish to expose the Catholic Church and its false Christianity, then you need to view the whole series of DVDs by Professor Walter J. Veith in his Total Onslaught box set, right? And it's available free to watch on the net, and now you can then start to understand what's going on. So let's listen to what you had to say, Alex Jones, about St Edward's Jesuit University whilst babbling on down there at this military fortress of the Jesuits, and people note how he says he has, quote, a lot of connections to your fine institution, end quote. So here's the audio.
Thanks for having me here. It's great to be visiting all you fellow Austinites. My sister's 15 years younger than me, and she actually goes to school here. And Trey back there is a senior, about to graduate, and he runs my Sunday syndicated show at KLB J590 from 4 to 6 p.m. So I have a lot of connections to your fine institution here. Fine institution here. Fine institution here.
Why, Alex Jones, do you claim the Catholic Church has nothing to do with the Order of the Bavarian Illuminati? Yes, you have said this in the past. We know you've said this, and it can be proven. Why do you ignore Adam Weiser being a Jesuit professor at Ingolstadt Jesuit University in Bavaria, a military fortress? Why do you not understand him being sheep-dipped for his task ahead after 1773, when the Pope suppressed the Society of Jesus, and the Society of Jesus wanted revenge and utilised their lackeys, the Rothschilds? Let's see, Alex, right? You don't like Homeland Security much, do you? So why haven't you exposed our Jesuit volunteer corps, John C. Gannon, fathered Homeland Security, the same Council on Foreign Relations member tied to the Jesuit military fortress, Georgetown University, also an ex-officer of the Maltese CIA for the Maltese British Intelligence Network? What about Knight of Malta, Alberto Gonzales, right? And what about Michael P. Jackson? He's also a Knight of Malta and trained down at the infamous Georgetown University. Why haven't you told your paying viewers this, Alex? So many connections to Jesuit fortresses, and especially that master one, Georgetown University. Let's see what the legendary conspiracy exposer William Cooper had to say about Alex CIA Jones, and note Cooper's information on the Jesuits and his exposure to John Paul II's links with I.G. Farben, and note this real truth-sayer is dead in a bloody wooden box, assassinated, whilst Phony Jones is on Fox News living it up with Maltese funds. Ask yourself how anyone affords $10,000+ a month on servers, for God's sake.
Before we get started, I have to clear up a little discrepancy here. Apparently the other night, or within the last week, because I've been getting a lot of email about this, and I even received one telephone call. Apparently somebody called the Alex Jones broadcast and asked him why he didn't have me on the air, or asked him something about me. Alex Jones said he had me on the air once before, several years ago, and had to cut me off the air because of the foul language that I used. So on the air tonight, I'm going to tell you, Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, miserable, stinking little coward liar. Now let me say that again so there's no mistake about it. You can all tell Alex Jones that I said this, and I suspect he's listening because he does. Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, stinking, rotten little coward liar. I was only on the Alex Jones show one time. It was years ago, when I didn't know who he was, when I didn't realize what a liar and a coward and a sensationalist bullshit artist that he is. He was on one little FM station down in Texas. He wasn't on all the stuff that he's on now. And I agreed to be on his broadcast. That's when I was doing guest appearances on broadcasts, years ago. I was not cut off. I did not use any kind of foul language whatsoever. He treated me very well, and I stayed on for the whole show. Some of you in Texas know that that's true because you heard the broadcast and you taped it. Later, when I found out who Alex Jones was and what he was doing to the truth, and what a cowardly liar and sensationalist he really is, every time he called me after that, I have always refused to appear on his broadcast. Absolutely refused to lend him any credibility whatsoever by appearing on his broadcast. And that made him very angry. I've also revealed him for the lying, sensationalist, bullshit artist that he is by every once in a while bringing to your attention the lies and the deceit and the rumors that he spreads over the airwaves that are not good for any of us, and they're not good for the nation. They are especially not good for militia and patriots. The most disgusting broadcast he ever did was on New Year's Eve, the year 2000, the New Year's Eve, 1999, bringing in the year 2000, which he went completely out of his mind and claimed that Russia had launched intercontinental ballistic missiles with multiple warheads at the United States of America, and actually panicked millions of people who were putting their children and their belongings in their cars and heading for the hills. Now, there's lots of things that can be said about me. Nobody needs to lie about me. Sometimes I am irritating. Sometimes I absolutely will not suffer fools and am just as rude as I can be. Nobody has to lie about me, Alex Jones. So I suggest that the next time somebody calls your broadcast and asks them about me, you tell the truth. There's lots of truth that you can tell about me. But don't ever lie on me, buddy, because I'll chop you off at your ankles. I will chew you up. I will spit you out for the lying, stinking, rotten little coward that you are. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say about Mr. Sensationalist, lying, rumor-mongering, bullshit artist, Alex Jones. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Cooper.
Hi.
Listen, that Alex Jones interview was directly after you published the Veritas June 26, 1998 issue about the Cooper family being targeted by the feds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah,
And
back in 1990. Did he kick me off the air?
No, he's a liar, and you've pointed it out, and I heard that interview, and you were nothing but cordial.
Yeah, well, that's the truth.
That's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia.
Bye-bye.
Alex Jones is a miserable, rotten, little, stinking, cowardly, bull-faced liar. Boy, you know, all of these people ought to know better than to mess with me, because I don't take any crap from anybody. And if I'm not afraid of the whole machinations of the entire government Gestapo, what in the hell makes Alex Jones think that I would ever be afraid of his cowardly little rotten butt? Good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to let you know I verify what you said about that Alex Jones interview. They had it archived on the internet at one time, and I did hear that interview, and there was nothing wrong with what you did.
And I wasn't thrown off the air, was I?
Not a bit.
No. And that's the only interview I ever did with Alex Jones. As soon as I found out what he was doing and who he really was, he's called me back at least 100 times since then, and I've always told him to take a hike. So anyway, thank you.
How does Alex respond to Cooper? He tries to discredit him, like he does with Eric Phelps right now, going on about Cooper speaking of UFOs and aliens, making it all out to be utter nonsense, of course. He never tells people how Cooper always said he may have been shown these things in order for him to speak out, which he also said would aid the coming world government if so. He didn't say the info was wrong, and he didn't say it was right. All he could present was the facts as he saw them whilst working for the Office of Naval Intelligence at one time. But Alex won't go into that. He needs a quick discredit job to keep his ratings, you see, and to put you off William Cooper. William Cooper always said that Alex Jones was never a member of any patriot movement, and I think William Cooper should know. So Mr. Jones, why do you love this Hugo Chavez for? I was one of the first people to start exposing this oppo-saying Pope lover. Another Catholic shill playing his part with the Pope's socialistic system of global governance known as temporal power, kissing the Pope's hand and bowing to him. The same Hugo who's friends with fourth-vow Jesuit and socialist Fidel Castro, who was put in power by the bloody British intelligence through the CIA branch. All games, fronts, proxies for the Pope's coming launching pads and his US invasion shortly. So Alex Jones, you also detest this US patriot, don't you? So why haven't you informed the people that the co-author of it was a Jesuit priest from military powerhouse, once again, Georgetown University? Why did you forget this powerful Jesuit known as Viet E. Din? Viet, V-I-E-T, E. Din, D-I-N-H. The same Jesuit we have standing next to Roman Catholic Nancy Pelosi in a picture. Why do you forget Din, this once US Assistant Attorney General? Why do you conveniently forget that Michael Chertoff was trained at Georgetown University? Why we see once again a connection to Maltese Knight Murdoch, with Din being a director of his corporation? Why, Alex, don't you tell the paying people how you censored the legendary Judge Buster Sherman Skolnick from speaking about the Jesuit order on your radio show? Why did you do that? Would funding have stopped because he was talking about Roman Catholic and the truth? Alex, if you love America so much, why don't you speak of how the Supreme Court is majority Catholic, including Opus Dei Antonin Scalia? What about how the majority of the US police are Roman Catholic Knights of Columbus? What about how Jeb Bush is a fourth degree in that order? Who controls Jeb and the order? Why, it's Carl A. Anderson, the Supreme Knight, of course. You know, why do you forget these important Catholic issues, Alex? Trying to hide something here. Why don't you speak of the 1822 Treaty of Verona, V-E-R-O-N-A, and the destruction of the US Constitution? You go on about the US Constitution and that. Why don't you talk about that? I mean, when you pathetically bullhorn Chris Matthews, why didn't you highlight his Catholic religion? What about his ties to British intelligence through the MSNBC network? More to the point, why didn't you point out that Chris was tied to Thomas O'Neill, who's tied to powerful Jesuit Boston College, the same Boston College we saw Barack Obama at in 2005, by the way? What about Chris being trained by Jesuits at the College of Holy Cross? Why'd you forget all that? Alex, I mean, isn't it amazing how you can get a Rothschild on your radio show? this great big powerful Rothschild family. Maybe it's because of all the promotion you give them as these great powerful all-controlling bankers. This proved you were an agent completely. Folks, the Rothschild, right, he had on was David Mayer de Rothschild, the son of Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, the Maltese knight who was on BBC the other day when he was talking about the stage Maltese bring down of the economy. Of course he didn't tell you it was staged. Do you think you'd ever see the Grand Master of the Knights of Malta, Matthew Festi, or the Superior General of the Jesuits, Adolfo Nicholas, on BBC like this? Hell no, you wouldn't. Only pawns go and sit in the studio of minions like BBC. Would you see the Pope there? Of course you wouldn't. Wake up and see who's the power. For that matter, would you even see the Maltese navigator Queen Elizabeth II in the studio? Never. She wouldn't sit there in that studio. But you see, Evelyn de Rothschild, who's supposedly greater than all these people. I mean, Alex, it seems you're a Hollywood kind of fraud. Folks, do you honestly think someone who has a globally released film with him acting in would be of truth? The film I'm talking about is the Ass Scanner Darkly, taken from Philip K. Dick's work. It came out in 2006. Now, by the way, who controls Hollywood? It's not the Sabbatean Frankists, but the mafiosi who's always controlled it, going back to way back and to Marilyn Monroe, for instance, the same feminine who made the mafiosi the most currency of all their actors and actresses. The most Lucy, the Lucifer, the currency, the money, the juice. Didn't we hear CIA Jones once claim that Arabs owned Hollywood? For God's sake, what a complete joke. I mean, let's talk about the European Union now, Alex. Why do you constantly go on about Bilderberg? Why do you claim they are this ultra-powerful group? They're just a small arm of the Cliveden set and the unholy Roman Empire control. Why do you always forget to mention how it was Jesuit Joseph Rettinger behind Bilderberg? He was the brainchild and the one who brought Prince Bernhard onto the project. Why do you miss out Jesuit Alcide de Gasperi, A-L-C-I-D-E, space D-E, space G-A-S-P-E-R-I, behind the European Union? Why'd you do that? I mean, you certainly don't like pointing out these Jesuits, just like the other Pied Pipers don't. What about the Coudenhove Calgary Foundation? Those pan-European Roman Empire cretins such as Otto Habsburg, Max Turnover and Carlo Tasso. The same foundation linked to Richard Coudenhove, C-O-U-D-E-N-H-O-V-E. Never really talk about them, do we? What about Belgium's Cercle des Nations, C-E-R-C-L-E-D-E-S, Nations? What about the Swiss Mont Pelerin Society, M-O-N-T space P-E-L-E-R-I-N space Society? You don't speak about them, do you? That devious society that pirate Milton Friedman came from, the cretin part of the post-industrial zero growth society agenda with all this free trade. What about the German Hans Seidel Foundation, H-A-N-N-S space S-E-I-D-E-L Foundation? Hey Alex, who controls Germany, Belgium and Switzerland along with others? Why, it's Jesuit Regional Assistant Antonin Cahul, K-E-R-H-U-E-L, from France. We also have many others we can talk about, such as the Société Internationale de Wilton Park, that's another one, and of course Movement d'Action pour Union d'Europe. Why don't you speak of these high European Roman-controlled organisations, Alex? Do you wish to just keep the profane at a basic level, still highly profane? Do you think the United States is the be-all and end-all? Wrong. The world is controlled by Europe, and in fact the head of the dragon is within the city of Seven Hells, Rome. So considering we hear you speak sometimes of Europe control of the US, why no knowledge of European powerhouses I've just given and others? Have you ever heard of the Associani del Nobili del Sacro Romano Impero? Who were the only two people that had a chance of getting the soon permanent position of EU President. The two candidates were Maltese knight Tony Blair and of course Jose Maria Aznar. The same Aznar, who's on the board of directors of Maltese Night, Murdoch's corporation again. More Catholics urinating in the same pot. Aznar is fully controlled by smug Middle Eastern navigator King Juan Carlos of Spain, that Order of Garter, that Order of the Golden Fleece, and many others. And he's also controlled, including King Juan, by Jesuit regional assistants Joaquin Barrero, Joaquin Barrero. We also see Roman Catholic Andrew Knight on the same board. What about Roman Catholic trained Andrew Knight? The same Knight who's a director of Rothschild Investment Trust Capital Partners plc. The same Knight tied to the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Bilderberg and the Ditchley Foundation run by Maltese Knight John Major, who's also Order of the Garter, which is an inner core of the Maltese Knights. What you should also find is that he most likely is a member of the group. The group, in other words, a Russell Trust Association member, or more commonly known as the Skull and Bones, down at Oxford University in England. I think the main part is Balliol or something, Balliol, if I remember correctly. Study into that. Not many people talk about the Skull and Bones, the group down in Oxford. They only talk about Yale. You speak of this a lot, don't you, Alex? This Skull and Bones, right? The Brotherhood of Death. The same Brotherhood of Death that nicknamed the Nazi SS. The same Brotherhood of Death known as the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, in which the SS was actually modelled off by Himmler, admitted by Himmler, loaded with actual Jesuits at core positions, all using the Skull and Bones of Jupiter, the symbolism of Jupiter. Why does Knight, right, remind me of John Kerry all of a sudden? Getting the connections now, folks, right? Why is it, Alex, that you won't speak of how the official religion of the European Union is Roman Catholicism? That's why as well you see everybody sign the EU Constitution under the Pope, the big statue of the Pope in Rome. What a shock. Same as where the common market first started. Everything goes back to Rome, as it says in the Bible and all the prophecies which they're trying for you not to understand and look at anymore. It seems maybe Maltese Knight Tony Blair knows this well and converted quickly to this so he could be the EU president soon. And what about Jan Stantmiller? Isn't he a Roman Catholic? Can you explain further on this, in case I'm wrong? Is it any wonder he detests the Jews, if that's the case, which is Catholic doctrine? Can you also explain why you help the Church of Rome by claiming it's losing power? The unholy Roman Empire is now controlling the world, something it never did in the past. The wound has healed and the little horn is set now, as in Revelations. Why did you dump on Ed Brown when he started to tell the truth on who's really controlling the United States, Alex? You belittled the poor man. Oh, he's stupid now. He's following all these stupid people. You're the stupid one, not we. Why did you threaten to sue us all, Alex? Why would you want to utilise a maritime court in order to sue us? If you hate the sewer system installed, then why would you want to utilise it exactly? You're a hypocrite again. The same court system which has done away with the Constitution, more in favour of a Napoleonic type system of where you're guilty till proven innocent as such. There's a lot of that Napoleonic control down in New Orleans, the Confederate Jesuits place, and that's what's going to be put on us, this Napoleonic system with the New World Order, the temporal power, the global governance. So here's a quote regarding this. Quote, "I am not going to have people on who are liars. I mean, I can sue them into oblivion, but I don't have the time." End quote. Why do you accept money for advertising, Alex, from the likes of corporate giant Walmart, as I call them, or Walmart? The same Maltese controlled Red Chinese job, killing all local businesses and reducing choice? You're such a nice patriot, aren't you? You had adverts for the UK's ASDA, which is controlled by Walmart. It's bought out by Walmart. The same one using Chinese to slave labour, creating cheap products for consumerism, and these poor slaves, the majority of them, are guarded by the Chinese secret police, tortured by them, and you've got to do this, you've got to do that, or you're killed. The products, the crap products, just for some consumers, and so you keep buying because they keep breaking down all the time. That's if they work at all. So who on the Maltese side is a direct controller of Warwart? It's none other than Cardinal Egan's stooge, David Rockefeller. Tell the world, Alex, that one. Tell them. Why are you helping out a local small business destroying corporation which deals drugs, firearms, for killing and war and poverty and all the rest of it? Reminds me of this Saudi dope and arms dealer, Adnan Kadashov. It's Khashoggi, Adan, Adnan. The same Adan who's tied to Maltese Night Rockefellers. Any connection to you, Mr. Alex Jones, by any chance? Why don't you talk about the Arkansas connection with Warwart? Tell people, Alex, how Bill Clinton is riddled with Red Chinese. What about how deep Hillary goes with the Red Chinese? Haven't we got pictures somewhere of her with some Red Chinese members? What about the leader to the Red Chinese being Francis K. Fong, F-O-N-G? And what about Min Ching Shu? Then we have Red Chinese Wang Jun, which is M-A-N-G-J-U-N. And he was a funder of Clinton. Folks, study Bentonville and note the Chinese airport nearby. What about the Chicago stock market, Alex, funneling all the dirty money, all that laundering? Right. Once again, we see more Maltese Knights in the form of George Herbert Walker Bush, along with his brother Prescott Bush Jr., behind much of this. But you just keep helping them, Alex. Just don't say anything. And then we got these Asda adverts, which were on your site in 2007. Tell the people, Alex Jones, how the Knights of Malta used the Sendero Luminaro guerrillas down in Peru for the Black Postal Trade Protection. Who am you going to advertise next? Will it be Japanese Sony? That's Standard Oil of New York, S-O-N-Y, Rockefeller Maltese outfit. Is it going to be them? So Alex likes to call Vatican exposers mental and nutcases. Isn't this an old pathetic trick of the establishment, and also by him and profane idiots? How does he think this will work for him? I'm not the one screaming and acting like a complete buffoon, which itself puts many off conspiracy knowledge. The problem being that the CIA, using Jones, gets to most newbies very quickly. Here's a quote from Alex Jones. Quote, I found no one as bad as the mental cases. Catholics run it all crew. End quote. So Alex Jones, you mean you've not found anyone more powerful in intelligence as us, who can run rings round your Mockingbird, COINTELPRO? CIA, Patriot, not movement. Are you worried, Alex? Are your ratings falling that dramatically? Alex Jones also associates, right, with this Benjamin Fulford fraud, a Maltese Rockefeller-controlled asset regardless of any false stories you hear. The same Fulford trained by Jesuits linked to the Yusha Tokyo fortress known as Sophia University, Jesuit military fortress. The same military fortress which is linked to Jesuit soldier Francis Xavier, the main cretin behind vaccinations, which were to poison and to kill all Protestant heretics and liberal thinking enemies of the Church of Rome. Or should I say Babylon, to be precise. I mean, come to think of it, Alex, you've never spoken of this ever. Vaccines and Francis. The same Fulford who pushes HIV as the cause of AIDS, this virus created to kill off the populations. Yet again we can prove the HIV virus as a complete fraud very quickly. I never knew that malnutrition, for starters, is a bioweapon. Anyone with a brain cell who attempts to study this HIV and AIDS can see quickly what's going on with this scam. A scam killing thousands daily with fatally poisonous drugs like AZT, the same HIV test which shouldn't even be used to flag HIV. The same HIV fraud test which flags up over 70 false positives, including pregnancy, for God's sake. The same HIV virus that has never been isolated and never will, but the profane fall for the fancy rendered 3D graphical drawings like of this mysterious non-existent virus. All these idiot scientists and their loony mathematics based on nothing at the core. Why doesn't Benjamin Fulford mention his Jesuit friends and their Francis Xavier? So this Benjamin Ninja Rockefeller stooge Fulford, another Maltese corporate cretin and false pipe piper, is someone who lives in a comic book fantasy from the Beanos. Now people must realise that the Maltese Knights control both Japan and China. Japan has been well in the hands of the United States since World War II. Where do you think Sony comes from? Standard Oil in New York. This is where the Nikkei 225 stock market and Japanese economy are so important to keep an eye on. The Maltese utilise the Institute of Pacific Relations to control these countries. In fact, the head of controlling Japan is Jesuit Provincial Shogo Sumita, which is Shogo Sumita. And then people don't forget that Jesuit Regional Assistant Daniel Yang Hung controls Japan above the provincial shogun, along with China, North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, Taiwan and Hong Kong, for instance. Also note the role of the Hong Kong Special Administration Region in the control of Hong Kong. China is also controlled through the American-China Forum of the National Committee on US and China Relations, and of course the Chinese People's Institute of Foreign Affairs. Do those two sound familiar? One like the CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations, the other like the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Remember, the CFR is the American branch of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Now let's look at this Ray McGovern, who Alex Jones teams up with regular. Well, first off, he's Jesuit trained at the two most powerful locations in the United States. Again, Georgetown University and Fordham University. Fordham is where the Jesuit New York Provincial oversees the SMOM Navigator, Cardinal League and the Archbishop of New York at St. Patrick's Powerhouse Cathedral. He worked for their Maltese CIA, this Ray McGovern. Do you think that this mount is not safe and controlled? He'd be dead in a blink of an eye unless he had security in multiple locations ready to come forth if popped off. Yet another stinking Roman Catholic who worked for a stinking Maltese knight called Ronald Reagan. That same, again, cretin who sold the old country, lowercase United States, back with that Concordat of 1984. So is Jones your patriot now, people? Associating with the cretins like this, McGovern is tied to Maltese Knights, William J. Casey and John C. Gannon. Why does McGovern wish you to believe that Israel has the ability to set off nuclear weapons that it's got? It's not so. No nuclear weapons can be set off by Israelis without the permission and direction of the United States and its Council on Foreign Relations. The Maltese CFR controls Israel along with the Institute for Jewish Policy. Nothing goes on without the Maltese masters say so. Remember, King Juan Carlos is ruling the Middle East region under his Latins of Jerusalem title. SMOM Juan Carlos is controlled by Grand Master Festin and Jesuit Barrero. What about Jesuit-trained Simon Perez, that Vatican agent to the Pope, the most powerful Sabbatean Frankist in the land of Israel, the man behind the killings of Rabin and cabbaging of Ariel Sharon, the man behind the Oslo Accord and the handing over of 80% of Jerusalem over to the Pope? And don't forget how he's got the Temple Mount, the Pope. Henry Kissinger is a sort of Simon Perez in the United States, a papal advisor, Maltese knight and so forth. So Alex, why don't you deal Catholicism's role in all this? McGovern is an opposite and a Jew baiter and diverter, but what more would you expect from like a Roman Catholic? This cretin is also pushing for unification with Mother Babylon Church in reality. This is all this ecumenical crap. Why would Ray focus on Jews in the US when in fact Congress alone has a majority of Catholics over the Jews within it? And that reminds me again of the Supreme Court. There's a majority of Roman Catholics. We also see Alex Jones defended by Roman Catholic lover Ken Adachi. The same Ken mixing few truths with much far-out nonsense. Check his website out if you don't believe me. The same Ken, right, who promotes that the Catholic Church is Christianity. About time, right, people started to understand what true Christianity is for once. Ken, you're nothing but a temporal coadjutor, helping the Pope's end game of temporal power or for the profane global covenants. Ken tries to hide the Vatican by claiming the Illuminati are trying to destroy Christianity. The Catholic Church. The Illuminati are controlled by the Church of Rome, for God's sake. The same church which is about to change into a new religion shortly, with new names and titles, as they did when the Roman Empire of the West became the Church of Rome, when the Caesar changed to the Pope, the Pontifex Maximus, the same title used by the popes today. The same popes who are the head of the ecumenical and World Council of Church movements, the same popes who were behind the head of the gatherings in Rome and mass religions as one. The conditioning for the final world religion of the unholy Roman pagan empire. So Alex is defended by these sorts of people. I wonder why. I wonder what connections Kenadachi has to FBI Division Number 5 down in Denver, Colorado. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Again, the FBI, which was created by Maltese Knight and Jesuit Confederate Charles Bonaparte, put in place by Maltese Knight Ted Roosevelt and Jesuit Confederate. This is the same Kenadachi who hangs around with CIA-controlled Ted Gunderson, who poses as a good guy. The same Gunderson who's had a Roman Catholic priest with him at almost all times. Why? An handler or what? Again, the stench of Roman Catholicism on corporate US soil, as I see it. Let's talk about Joe Rogan for a minute, the Satanist, the drug taker. Let's see how Alex Jones likes this guy. The same Rogan who puts his arm around the Satanist known as Stanton Levi, whilst throwing horned hand symbol and wearing a Saturnian black t-shirt with 666 up on it. The Holy Sun crowned to them. In the video with him and Alex acting all stupid to discredit in the eyes of most profane, you'll see him taking drugs from a bung. He openly promotes cannabis and DMT. If you or I did that, we'd be off air, never to be seen again. Remember how the United Nations detest DMT and have banned it from most parts of the globe. Doesn't this worry you out there? Alex Jones also wearing a black Saturnalian cloak and mask, as is Rogan. It's really covertly telling you something. But again, you believe these are the good guys. They're laughing at you whilst taking your money and time. We also see Rogan liking the rising Phoenix. Phoenix meaning red gold. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest when you know Rogan's into DMT. This guy is on mainstream television again, doing comedy, Fear Factor reality shows and all that crap. I mean, come on, it's a joke. If these people were serious, they'd be off the air ASAP. Rogan seems to like Darwinism. What was Darwin? He was an actual Jesuit, just like his grandfather Erasmus Darwin, the actual creator of Darwinism. Another load of trash from the Jesuits in order to move you away from the AV 1611 Bible teachings of creationism. Also note, Rogan's website has a little alien with horns on it. So on one hand he's a Darwinist, and on the other hand he believes in aliens and the devil, you know, with the horns. Where would creationists come from, if any? God? I don't know. Rogan is another one who works within the Sin City, Hollywood. Who truly controls Hollywood and always have? Again, it's the mafioso controlled by the archbishops, not the Sabbatean Hofjuden Front. It was the mafioso who helped Walt Disney against the unions. How fitting was that? Is it any wonder we see 5-pointed pentagrams of Lucifer within the four-cornered square of Saturn, L, at Hollywood? It's witchcraft, it's druidism. Just like those ones of the Druids that were made of the wood of holly, the ones that created the illusions of old controlling the people. Let's quickly talk about how Alex has been a funder of Ron Paul. Ron Paul is an upper same fraud. I was one of the very first exposers of Ron Paul. All these profane sheep falling for the lies and paying for it off Alex Jones's website, and also paying when donating to a doomed cause. All these people donating to Ron Paul. I hope these people love you now after all that, and all the money was utterly wasted. And all I have to say on Ron Paul is study Paul Wellstone, Senator Paul Wellstone for one. Another cretin in the Maltese Reagan administration was Ron Paul. Not worth my time whatsoever, to be honest. Another who ignores Roman Catholic control. Yet another Roman Catholic sucking up to phony Baptist, basically. How disgusting is it to see someone praise the Antichristos Pope of the Church of Rome, the dragon? This is what Ron Paul did about John Paul II. He's a fraud. Talking of Jesuit Confederate Maltese Reagan again, we note his friendship with socialist Freemason Walt Disney. The same Disney in charge of the network that Alex is on. The same witchcraft Luciferian Venusian Disney forcing our children to see phallics and sexual subliminals. I mean, what do you say about that, Alex? You seem to like all this circus and bread. You know what it means. The Romans being the complete masters of it. A bit like you're dressing up as Set, our Vader Set, shouting off, entertaining to profane idiots, all whilst real issues are ignored that are of high importance. No different to a Knights of Malta football game to keep you ignorant. Why don't you tell the people, Alex, how Disneyland are used to program child slaves? But you can't do that, can you, because of ABC? Don't believe me if you don't want, but do a study on an ex-Disney director called Victor Ronald Salva, S-A-L-V-A, and what happened to him for abusing children back in 1988. So when you watch his film Jeepers Creepers, you know why it's sick and twisted. Let's also talk about the B-movie staged arrests of Alex Jones, especially the one where he's taken away from George W. Bush, and of course the one prior to his video coming out. They're all setups to get you suckered into following his false tunes from the Pipe intelligence agency flute. I wonder if him and Tex Mars share spit on the end of that filthy traitorous flute. When you're first getting into conspiracy, you see Alex Jones as some kind of a god. You even get a buzz out of seeing him arrested. This is what British intelligence actually want. And it's a sucker-in job, agenda. Then when you start to learn what's going on about Alex, well, all that tends to go away quickly, and you see how really pathetic it actually is, and was. Just the same as Ewan's pathetic life in the mix and illusion of the conspiracy you couldn't see when he was deeply profane. So Alex, why haven't you addressed the genocide of nearly 1 million Croatians due to the Vatican? Tell the people about the San Francisco Federal Court case, Alperin v Vatican Bank back in 1999, ALPERIN. Let's get some facts going, Alex. You also haven't spoke of how Catholics were pacifying the Indonesian islanders under Japanese control. Let's see what the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Japan says about it all. Come on, give us some facts for once. Deep facts. How can you ignore Vatican control and crimes? You're just another Patrick Buchanan. So now I'd like to also let you listen to a quick clip of what Freeman Fly had to say when he was speaking with Eric Phelps in an interview not long back, and notice what he says about Alex Jones and when he appears big.
Because it was HW's announcement for the New World Order. To me, it was so obviously an inside job, and I wondered if it was designed as such so that it would cause a schism and create an Alex Jones, so that then there's this more infighting with us.
Why, sure. Sure, because you have to divide the camp of the enemy before you conquer them, and you have to smite the shepherd so that the sheep can be scattered. So you have to discredit real leaders, and then you have to create infighting among others through Operation Mockingbird and other things like that, where you control the alternative media, and then you can continue to sow this discord while at the same time planning your next terrorist event.
Now we get to the what we really want to go on about, what Alex has done recently with his hatchet job video. So, in this video, Tex Mars researched Eric John Phelps did it. What a great letdown this Tex Mars is after all, you know. How can anyone follow this Tex Mars ever again after this nonsense hatchet's job? It's desperate. So, Eric supposedly, according to Alex CIA Jones, claims, quote, only he is not a Vatican agent in the Patriot movement, quote. Well, Eric has never said this whatsoever. This is Alex's way of demonising Eric in the eyes of the blinkered flock to protect himself as usual. So Tex Mars is a Protestant pastor, is he? That figure, seen as Protestantism, has been taken over fully by the Society of Jesus, and is full of phonies. If Texmas was a true Protestant, it wouldn't have gone quiet on the Antichristus Vatican for the last 4 years or so. Anyone who's a Protestant should be protesting the Vatican. Otherwise you are no longer a Protestant, period. In most cases you're a tempora coadjutor, willingly or stupidly doing the bidding of the Pope for his temporal power and global governance. So tell me why someone whose family supposedly was being targeted for death by the Jesuits for running Bibles in Texas. Tell me why somebody would just ignore Rome after that. Tell me why anybody would be a traitor to their own family if this case was so. This then shows the type of person we're dealing with, doesn't it? Now I'll play a 3.5-minute recording of a true patriot known as Hiram Dukes, H-A-R-A-M, as in Hiram Abiff, and what he tells you on Jesuit infiltration of Protestant churches, or once Protestant churches. So here we go with that.
Scholars, and they were sticking up their fingers for a ride. I said, I'll just pick them up and put them in the back seat and see what I can find out from them. And so when they got in the back seat and was seated, I asked them, I said, you boys are from Georgetown University taking the priesthood, aren't you? No, we're not taking the priesthood, they said. Oh, I said, you're scholars from Georgetown University taking something. What are you taking? They said, we're Anglican brothers. Oh, I said, the church has never told us what Anglican brothers are, nor much about them, and I don't know much about them. What do the Anglican brothers do, and what are they for? They said, well, we're taking studies to work with the Protestant churches and get them to come in to do what the church wants them to do, and to work with them and work with us. And I said, well, how many of you folks are taking the course? They said about 780. And I said, how many graduates? Oh, some are between 780 and 700 or 800. No, 700 and 780. I said, now, how many graduated last year? And they told me. And then I said the year before that, and they told me, and I went back to, we had about 3,800 people graduated and out in the field. And I said, well, what do you boys do when you go out in the field? No, I said, first I want to know how many graduate next year. Well, it said it would be somewhere under 900 anyway. And I said, how about, what do you do when you graduate? He said, well, the first thing we change our names. And when we change our names, then we're allocated so many to this church, so many to that church, and to another church. And I said, when you go out to the churches, then what do you do? He said, well, first thing we do is look around for some nice young lady that we'd like to make an associate member with, and then we marry them. And after we're married, we go off to a Protestant theological seminary or school, and we come out a Protestant minister. Then we're taught to, in our course, to work up to the heads as fast as we can in that line, where we're supposed to work in. And I said, now, do all of you work in the same field? No, says some of us work, but we all work in the church trying to get the churches to unite with us and do what we want them to do.
So were these Roman Catholic students then?
They were, as far as I learned, from what I learned, they were Jesuits. I know they don't only infiltrate the Protestant churches, but they infiltrate their schools. And I know one fellow that got to be teacher in the Methodist school, and as a result of that, a lot of the Methodist ministers today are carrying communist cards. They utilize anything and everybody to bring their means to an end.
Right, so next, Alex Jones claims he's not going to name any names today. Why is this, Alex Jones? Are you so desperate to have your dig at Eric John Phelps but make sure the majority don't latch on to his amazing, factual, truthful information? You've really screwed up this one, especially Tex when he blabs the website later on. And I believe he's created this site attacking Eric Phelps and myself, and a couple of others from the look of it. And are you worried about being liable, Alex Jones? I mean, I don't think Eric Phelps is going to stoop to using unconstitutional British maritime courts, unlike yourself, if you actually could. Now you claim we're out to destroy patriot movements. First of all, can anyone tell me of a real patriot movement out there that's not controlled by British intelligence and the Central Intelligence Agency? You guys infiltrate all movements, and if you cannot take them over, you utilise techniques in order to divide the leadership and destroy them completely in most cases. Folks, these tricks of the Maltese intelligence network and the many agencies worldwide, so I'm glad you're saying 9 times out of 10, Alex, because we are the 1 out of 10 who are not agents but in fact truth-sayers. In this case, the claims of you being a temporal coadjutor are absolutely correct and stand to this time, period. Until you recognise all of Rome's controls, crimes and future actions, then you are a shill who has no credibility anymore, period. You're here just to simply spoon-feed people ground-level agendas such as ID cards, etc. You never go into any details of any use within the Omega point of control, that pinnacle. You then hate the people that do. Eric teaches true Christianity as taught of old, which is true Protestantism, based on the authorised King James Bible, AV 1611, the only Bible to be quoted and used. You wish basically people to not learn the true teachings of Christianity, don't you, Alex? Otherwise you wouldn't be doing this. Eric opens your eyes up to the truth behind the conspiracy from who rules and how they do it, to reasons why, and it's all totally religious. It's not money, it's religion. Another great scholar to do this is Professor Walter J. Fife, who's amazing at showing you the truth. Alex, no longer will you and others divert this knowledge, I'm telling you, and put people down whilst promoting Jesuit actions and wants as you're doing. If you don't do as a true Protestant should, then you're not a Protestant. End of. The battle here really is between God and the dragon, good and bad, nothing else. We only need to see true scriptures against the Mithra-paganised Catholic fraudulent texts to understand this fully. In order to understand these writings, we need to be versed in the Bible and understand the Bible properly. Until you or phony Tex Mars do this, then you're of no worth to anyone trying to understand this battle and conspiracy. To be honest, Alex, in fact, I don't think you've really got a clue on this side of the fence. So your knowledge is in fact very limited indeed, and you're also suckered into the countermeasures of the Jesuit control mechanism, as far as I'm concerned. What Bibles are you handing out, Alex? It wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't the Luciferian Douay nonsense. So now this great researcher, Tex Mars, made an amazing, serious discovery. Wow, Tex Mars, you've shown what you really are for sure now. People will turn off in droves for this, even more than they already are. You're just simply a traitor. Next, we see Alex lie and claim Eric has emailed him for interviews and then done this many times, including threatening him if he didn't have him on within a week. I mean, this is utter nonsense. Eric does not need Alex Jones' show or any show. Eric does not even threaten anyone. Eric's a good Christian gentleman, a good man. If Eric asked anyone to allow him onto their show, if they said no or ignored, he would simply move on. It would be no big deal. This is Alex once again at his tricks and discourage them against going to Eric's work. You cannot afford to lose your viewings and custom. Once he really starts to wear off, the Central Intelligence Agency will simply dust him off. They'll do it in seconds. What does this mean? It means basically you'd have no money, and you'd have to need government benefits or handouts or a proper job. Something that he wouldn't want to do, a whole new boring lifestyle he's afraid of, basically. I mean, my God, he has over $10,000 worth a month in costs for net servers. I mean, all that would be gone. It reminds me of Alan Watt again. It's like, what'll happen is the CIA will dust him off, but then they'll have somebody with the flame ready to pass the flame torch to, you know, another lackey that's gained some trust. And again, that's what I mean really when I'm talking about Alan Watt. So Tex Mars is this great Vatican author, right? But wait, Alex, right? He's not a great Jesuit author. And why all this quietness on the subject for the last few years, Tex? Who's paying your bills now? How do you sleep at night? You're just a phony. So Eric has supposedly called himself a white supremacist now, Alex. Yeah? Funny this, Eric is a white segregationist, you know, he believes in races being separated. And they're very much different. You then come up with this other total fantasy lie that Eric speaks of some weird black magical rituals in aircraft and firing some weird power beams to Earth. And this is what he believes nukes are. Well, Alex, I mean, what utter tripe and discredit job that was. How many times do you think you can get away with it? Eric does not speak of any black magic or power beams. What he speaks of, right, is how magnesium flash bombs laced with radioactive material such as like uranium or plutonium were dropped by B-29 bombers over Japan. This was to give the impression that the atomic detonations were airborne, when in fact they were really ground detonations. That's what he's telling you. The ground detonations perfectly timed without the air flash. So do you believe, Alex CIA Jones, that 5 Jesuits were protected by their Luciferian goddess Samarisis, or should I say Mary, when they amazingly appeared unarmed by the blasts? Are we meant to believe that? What about those plaques in the name of this so-called miracle down there in Japan? Explain that, Alex, if there weren't something going on. And what about that evil Pedro Arupe, who was their commanding officer during that time, and who later become the superior general of the order? What about that, Alex? So tell me where we get black magic and power beams from this, Alex. You're just a sneaky Jesuit yourself. Remember, folks, that the true definition of a Jesuit is a clever person who deceives people. That's what Alex Jones is doing. Just now. And all the time. He too will be totally screwed in viewers for this shortly. So Alex is trying to discredit. He is trying to do this with his own fantasy version of Eric Phelps' nuke knowledge. He's twisted it all as usual. Well, Alex, if anyone is trying to discredit the 9/11 movement, it's you. Whipping up all these young profane teenagers, you're trying children. You're getting arrested and causing agitation so much. If anyone is helping to damage the 9/11 truth movement, it is yourself, along with how you act like a complete mental case. This is a technique to put the masses off your work, whilst claiming that you're trying to do the opposite. You accept the more intelligent, as the CIA knows there is not much they can do against them that are semi-waking up. But they can sure use you to keep the others from awakening. So they put on this crazy mental voice and actions with their stooge, Alex Jones. All of a sudden, the new and profane see this and think mental retard or something, and they switch off instantly. So right now I'm going to play an example of Alex Jones and his technique to put people back into their quilts fast asleep.
Our roots. It's time to get angry, and it's time to start standing up to the scumbags that think that we're their slaves, because they're not giving us quarter, and if we don't stand up and fight back against them, we have no future. The New World Order must be defeated!
You've obviously seen Doctor Who.
No, I remember about 20 years ago watching it on PBS, yeah, but
You sounded just like a Dalek.
Are those the little things that run around trying to kill people?
They're
big, man. Don't say
exterminate, exterminate, yes.
that. Watch out for
Hey,
them.
listen, Alex.
No, that's the New World Order. It's Garlic's running the New World Order. Exterminate, exterminate.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
Prince Philip's a Garlic. You have got to get In-Game, folks. It's free on Google or get it at Amazon.uk. Just get it out to people. The rebellion has begun.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Alex Jones.
So, folks, who do you think is discrediting the conspiracy truth now, then? Huh? I mean, imagine yourself not knowing anything once again, back in, when you was profane, big time, and then coming across this raving lunatic straight off, going off on one, Would you still be a follower? I mean, Alex attacks David Icke for his reptilian theories, but at least David Icke goes about his presentations correctly, and in fact very well, by adding some sarcasm to the proceedings, which gives more interest. Mind you, as many know, I don't trust David Icke either. He's on the telly and everything else, but in many ways he's far better than Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones tries to discredit Eric's information on how nukes have been put on certain ley lines in order for the detonation to work as planned. This is also in accordance with the harmonics of the sun. It's where the sun's in a certain location in order for the nuke to explode. It's all to do with frequencies and stuff that we're not privy to, occult. This is the information that the Jesuits and the Maltese just do not want you to know. This is their occult and for them only. While it highlights the importance of the sun more than ever in their actions, along with showing you their airborne nuclear info is a complete hoax and fraud. Also, do you believe, folks, that there's not nukes planted all over the ground? If you wished to nuke a nation without any chance of it being stopped, then how would you do it? You'd do it this way. We also know of various individual groups of intelligence agencies which deal with specifically nukes. I forgot the division of Mossad now, in which controls much of the nuke maintenance that has to be done regular. There's Israeli Mossad. I thought we don't talk about Israeli Mossad, Alex Jones. So now according to Alex Jones, I'm now a well-meaning 2-year-old idiot for following Eric Phelps, and so is anybody else. Well, I'd like to call myself a downright idiot if I followed you, Alex Jones. I look back at my beginnings in all this, and I can't believe how Alex Jones suckered me in all them years ago. It disgusts me terribly. Alex, you keep throwing yourself in the deep end once again. Next, according to you, and you only, this is Eric claims the Earth is on some sort of string, which to me sounds like some sort of like a conquer game, of Great Britain, where you fight one of your conquers on a string. Where'd you come up with this? I mean, are all you Texans snakes or thick as elephant dung? Eric does not speak about any nonsense string with the Earth. Eric does speak of geocentrism, and that's based on, for instance, Psalm 19 of the Bible. This is simply where the Earth is still and doesn't go a merry path around the sun, but in fact it means the sun goes a merry path around the Earth instead. Now, many people have believed this in the past, and they still do. Why is it in the Bible, for God's sake? But why do the Jesuits detest the Bible and its many truths and truths, whilst the Jesuits, are peddling the lies? But what about some of the lower down ranked Jesuits who also believe this geocentrism? I mean, are you smarter than a Jesuit now, Alex Jones, or Tex Mars? Are you smarter than these continuations of the Chaldean academic classes? I think not. Also, I'm personally on the fence with this subject somewhat, as I just do not know. And no non-high-end NASA, Vatican intelligence or Jesuit will know either. Unless you go up into space yourself and view it, then how are you going to know? Or obviously tied to these orders and organisations at the top. So are we to believe that the book of Genesis, though, is nonsense? If the Jesuits hate this knowledge, then there must be something to it, which would benefit us and show us how they're doing certain things that they're doing. Why did Jesuit Leon Foucault Foucault, backed by Jesuits, controlling, like for instance, Louis Napoleon, rigged the experiment in the city of Isis, Paris, at the Church of Pantheon. Why did the Jesuits need this rotation of the earth for their evolution agenda drawn up by Jesuit Erasmus Darwin? And then obviously his grandchild, Jesuit Charles Darwin, fronted it then, you see. Please answer me, oh great CIA Alex Jones. Right, in one breath he claims we are well-meaning 2-year-old idiot, which to me implies that we're stupid. And then, when he lets the internet lot listen to the music, he then says to Tex Mars, quote, "We're clearly not crackpots, and that we're out to discredit him." So what is it, Alex Jones? You're admitting we have knowledge, and we are of a high intelligence, which deep down, basically, I think you're amazed at and actually admire. One minute you're saying that we're fit, the next minute you're saying that, we're not crackpots. You're the crackpot, if anything. We've broken yours and the Maltese crew's countermeasures, something which is very hard to do. I hope you see this, folks. So Tex Mars claims he's the overall truth movement. What a cocky statement is this? Like they're the only ones out there. Sorry, Tex, you're not the only one out there. And there's many other Maltese shills like yourself out there, and far more impressive than yourself at shielding the devious Jesuit actions. You're not very good. I like how the CIA and the Mossad have tremendous amounts of money. I wonder how big your paycheck is, Tex. I see no penny from anyone whatsoever and never will. I do not crave money. It is of no use in the real non-bird corporate Maltese cage. They like to trap us all in it. So now Tex Mars attacks Eric Phelps for being on an Israeli radio show. What about your buddy right opposite you called Alex CIA Jones, who's been on Fox News, CNN, MTV, C-SPAN, Russia TV, and on and on and on? How can you have the audacity to come out with this? If I remember this right, is exactly the same Israeli show, right, which has hosting Barry Kamish, or Shamish, Chamish. So tell me why Barry had to fear for his bloody life in Israel, Mr. Tex Mars. Why did he have to leave in order to stop them killing him over there, Mr. Tex Mars? Do you even know Barry Kamish, or is he just another Jew to you, Mr. Tex Mars? So what have you proven, Tex, with this one? Just that you're a complete hypocrite and a buffoon like your other CIA chum sitting by you? So this is your great research. Are you purposely trying to discredit yourself, or are you plainly an elephant turd that's thick? By the way, Tex, are you trying to be the next Alistair Darling, or something? With the eyebrow thing going on, your black eyebrows, your bleached blonde hair. Are you trying to be a wrestler? You're trying to be the overeaten Ric Flair? That they lie, don't they, the wrestlers? They have that's all fiction and a stage show. I think you're fitting pretty fine there. So now, Tex, you say Eric Phelps is supposedly exposing the Jesuits. So now you're claiming that he hasn't exposed the Jesuits, Tex. Eric is the foremost authority on the Society of Jesus by far. Tell me something, Tex and Jones. What do you think of your guest Jordan Maxwell? Why he wanted to announce Eric Phelps at the Con 2002 and wanted to listen to his Jesuit talk, as he'd been looking into Eric's work in the past and also promotes it on his website. I think he still does to this day, as far as I know. So now Tex decides Eric Phelps doesn't like people who exposes Zionism. Tell me why Eric Phelps exposes the hand of the Sabbatean Labour Masonic Zionists then. Eric has no problem with people exposing Zionism and Zionists. The problem he has is when people who know better simply will not tackle the Roman commander, these off-Judans. You can't keep blaming these off-Judans when you are aware and you know what's really going on, and that's what annoys us. Now tell me, Tex, right, what it says in the Bible about the Jews, what they say. In the Bible, the Jews, quote, have no king but Caesar, end quote. Now, who is Caesar exactly? And what is the Pope? Is the Pontimus Maximus again, an old title that the Caesar had. We are dealing higher now into the Omega level, and we don't want to be blaming Hofjudens for everything as if they're at the top, who are little piddly puppet knights, if they're lucky, when we know better. It's also very hard for us to listen to people putting all the blame on the wrong crowd. So Mr. Tex Mars, you got Eric's book, and it was absolutely ridiculous, was it? And hokey and all this crap you come out with. Why doesn't Jordan Maxwell seem to think so, and other so-called authorities in conspiracy? Why did you sell it for so long upon your site, Mr. Tex Mars? By the way, Mr. is a maritime term which then makes you a corporation. You're a captain of a ship. That's why I'm calling you Mr. Tex Mars. That person. Please don't tell me it was because your audience wanted it there. Why would you promote a book you don't like or agree with? This proves once again you're shillery. What's wrong, Tex, with his publisher? Is it because they're not on the CIA list of recommended publishers, CIA publishers? A book so wanted, Vatican Assassins 2, it's fetched as much as like $300 to $800, probably more, I might have missed, on these online auctions, for instance. Why would people, for God's sake, be willing to part with so much money for something which is of no use and has a bad reputation? Answer me this, Mr. Tex Mars. And please don't claim it's because people haven't read it before they've bought it. They're buying based on what many have said and on their recommendation. So, you've exposed the Jesuits, have you, Mr. Tex Mars? Are you a Jesuit authority, Mr. Tex Mars, as we've said earlier? Where's your Jesuit book, Mr. Tex Mars? Why is Eric the authority on the Jesuits then? So it's okay, is it, Tex, basically, to claim the Illuminati have created all offence from 1776, but it's not okay for us to say the same of the Jesuits, who in fact control their created Illuminati. Again, it's pure hypocrisy. Tex is simply trying to discredit while screwing himself over right now. Do we still need this Mr. Tex Mars around? I personally think not. We need rid of all these Roman lackeys. Now some even bigger bunkum comes from Tex Mars. Now he claims that Eric Phelps hates people who believe 9/11 was an inside job, claiming that Eric makes out they're a Jesuit in hiding. What is this overweight, hormonally injecting meat-eating idiot on? Eric Phelps exposes 9/11 as an inside job, but goes further and names actual names and real orders in charge, such as the CIA, Mossad, British Intelligence, Maltese Knights, Cardinal Egan, etc., etc. How's he calling them conspiracy theorists and blah blah blah, like these people are trying to make out? I just can't believe what I'm hearing from this great lump. Eric exposes the intelligence network control of these so-called 9/11 truth movements, such as this Canadian SIS agent and the Knight of Malta, Alfred Weber, or Webbery, which Tex Mars is sticking up for. Look, people, just study Eric's work before you believe this complete suppressionist Mr. Tex Mars. And your eyes will be opened very quickly to the truth, and these guys will fall into a fiery pit as they should have years ago. Like the Bible says, we're living in a time of deceit. And these are the great deceivers, the false prophets. So, Mr. Tex Mars, you have all these Vatican videos, do you, right? Do you once name it as the head of the dragon? And what about Jesuit videos, Tex? Why is it you have all these videos, yet I have needed to learn all my information from Eric John Phelps on the Vatican? And I've used other people as well, but Eric John Phelps is my main one. And you were supposed to be the be all and end all. It's funny that, isn't it? Now Alex tries to claim that we say the Vatican is the only one with evil and all this crap. The Vatican is the most evil, controlling everything But not only the Vatican can be evil, for God's sake. I mean, your neighbours can be evil, you can be evil, your sister can be evil. He's trying to make us look stupid, when in fact he says we're far from it. He ain't very good at lying. You've got to have a good memory to be a good liar, and he ain't got that. Not in this case. Apart from what's being programmed into his head, what documents, but never the deep part of it. Just this low level. CIA want you to know. And then they got the next shill that he's allowed to tell the higher level truth seekers that little bit more. And then it gets to the point where that's it, then it's stuck. But we've progressed past that and they don't like it. We can't have these new teachings coming back. Well, they're not new. They're old teachings of truth, what the Jesuits once suppressed. But we're bringing them back. We're bringing true history. We get Alex Jones diss us and on about us giving history lessons and things like that. Well, that's what everything's about. True history, not Jesuit constructed history and suppressed history. But Alex Jones don't like true history. So, can't say that the Vatican is the evil of evils. I mean, what a pathetic comment from a very pathetic man, really. I mean, just as William Cooper pointed out earlier. I mean, so tell me, Tex, what do you mean by Eric giving some truth? Can you tell us what these truths are? So now, Alex, you decide to claim Eric now says that these mythical black magic rituals are done in Foo Fighters. I thought it was planes before. Are you trying to confuse as well as be stupid? Do you, Alex Jones, or Alex CIA Jones, actually understand why God separated his creations in the first place? His peoples, his races. This is why people of different races should be apart from one another, and they were. Are you all Babylonian mystery religion people in support of Babylon the Great? Seems that way. So Alex Jones, do you actually live in a real multicultural world like I have to? Do you see the problems from race mixing? And forced race mixing as it is? Obviously not. Do you understand human DNA, Alex Jones? No. Go and do some homework and live in the reality for once. All races on earth will be far happier with their own nation and own people. If everyone had the same opportunities free from the Maltese birdcage, then one wouldn't need to desire to live on another's land with different races. The desire is only for the money and the lifestyle, which is gradually disintegrating. This is evident from all the Africans rolling into my country for the welfare state. It's getting to the point now where I don't see the typical black Englishman. We're now seeing all the Somali type blacks everywhere, more than even the normal black that was here originally. Enoch Powell didn't want bringing in for the reason that's going on there. How true was he? Well, he knew what the agenda was behind it. I mean, wake up, Alex, right, and stop twisting Alex race information. If everybody sits back and thinks about it, they should realise what's being said is correct. And like black people who don't fully agree with Eric on this subject, that's because they're black and they're living in our lands and having our freedoms. Would you honestly think that you should go somewhere else if you're here? You don't work that way. So this is why some people who are black who follow Eric Phelps on most issues can't get their head round that. If everybody sits back, like I just said, they're going to understand it. They've got to start using open minds and see what's going on and how blacks are being manipulated against us and against themselves. And they've got to know who by and what the agendas behind it is. There's so many blacks, they've got to also they're being taught false history and claiming it's black history, and a lot of it's bunkum. It's been put there to make them believe that they're more somebody than they actually were, and that we've suppressed them even more than we did, and we did suppress them a lot, and did the things to them. But it's just agitation by the Vatican to get gear up for what's coming with all these race riots shortly, which, funny enough, who's going to be behind them? Jesse Jackson. Oh, we've already got the protests ready for when McCain wins, because if he wins, it's a fraud. So therefore then, if it was a real election, and McCain did genuinely win, it don't matter to Jesse Jackson, he's still going to have his thing and claim it was a fraud. More than likely will be a fraud, an outright fraud like the 2000 coup with Al Gore. More so than that fraud 2004, which weren't a coup or a steal. Bush did win it. But they like to harp on the agents like Alex Jones about the 2004 election being stolen from John Kerry, but they never talk about the 2000 election being stolen from Al Gore. I can't stand Al Gore. He's an agent for Prince Philip, but at the end of the day, that was a stolen election because Al Gore had the vote, period, by a mass majority vote, whereas Kerry didn't. But all these Alex Joneses harp on about the 2004 elections. You understand what I'm saying there? How devious and crafty they are. This Jesse Jackson. Now what's Jesse Jackson? He's from the Boule, the B-O-U-L-E, the Boule, which is the main secret society in the centre, the total 9, the completion 9, which reversed is a perfection 6 of the societies, black societies, elite upper class societies. He's also an informant, a lackey of FBI Division 5. He's also controlled by the Archbishop of Chicago, who is Francis Cardinal Eugene. He is the treasurer for the Vatican, a very powerful man, also in charge of the Nation of Islam, and also the Ku Klux Klan. Again, the Vatican manipulating both sides. I mean, what was good, you even saw that, I mentioned it before, that street gang guy who's left the gangs, actually talking about how the Vatican's controlling the gangs with the archbishops. That's Jesse Jackson behind the killing of Martin Luther King. For instance, how he never wore a tie, and he made Martin Luther wear his tie. Crafty man, very crafty man, devious to the core. Him and his Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton's an FBI Division 5 as well. And same with Spike Lee, that great black producer of movies who a lot of the black people who are profane just do not understand what he's all about and look up to him when he's a devious piece of work. Basically, it's all out for money, fame, and to be good. But these people murder people, and it's disgusting. That's Jesse Jackson and the coming race riots. But this is what it is. They're trying to start up race riots, which we, from the look of it, from the documents like the DOD and the MOD, it was looking at 2010, but it looks like now it's a year early, 2009. And that's going to work well, especially in the United States, because if I remember rightly, they wanted to get the North American Union finished or really get going in 2009, and it's all tying in with the financial economic crisis. So crisis, riots, martial law, then Emiro's having to come in. We've got a global currency right now. It's not money, it's oil. That's your global currency. Black gold. Also, Alex, I don't think I've ever heard Alec Phelps use the term agents or agent as such. Very rare if he has. He uses the coadjutor term. I use agent a lot, and others do. I don't know where you're getting this Nazi agents thing from exactly the way you're putting it. Is it out of your empty brain or something? I mean, do you live in a fantasy world? Are you programmed by the CIA that much? What a shame for your soul, what God gave you. And how screwed up it is now, and trapped and manipulated, and God knows what with probably possible alters and things, the compartmentalisation of your brain into 2,000 and odd part, your cube. You've got to have some fun with these people, they like to call us names and lie and laugh at us, so let's have a bit of fun with them at times. Can't keep being too serious all the time, can we? So, what has Tex Mars, Mr. Tex Mars, and his engineering, etc. career got to do with anything? It's got nothing to do with it. So, Tex Mars was an Air Force officer. Wow. Shows what a shill this man was. Because when we see an officer, right, I don't know about the US, but over here, our armed forces only make officers of upper class and elitist types. You and I don't get it to become an officer. They'd have to be desperate. Nobody else whatsoever coming in to do that, just us. But anyway, why would anybody want to fight for the Pope and his 14th Amendment unholy Roman United States Empire? Do we see Eric Phelps wanting to do this? No. What are his thoughts on if his children go into the military? He would disown them. He said that. I mean, this is the mark of an honest and truthful man who believes fully what he preaches, and he practices it too. He reminds me of myself in certain things. So, Mr. Tex-Mars, what was it like being a pawn for foreign policy, as Maltese Henry Kissinger has put it in the past, along with very horrible terms to do with animals as well? I mean, you're not such a smart man now after all this, are you, Mr. Tex-Mars? So Eric's now in the pay of Israelis, according to Mr. Tex-Mars. Why is it that this man is right now not very well off? Why is it that you guys have helped screw the sales of his book by pirating it? And they're all over the web, torrents and everything else. It's not good. People should study all of Eric's teachings, interviews, and see the truth. You know, you'll see what's happening. Whilst all these phony scam artists are rich and have good lifestyles, paying little teenagers to go halfway around the States on planes at a whim. Look at how the real truth sayers are poor or just getting by, utilising normal jobs on top of it. So Alex, why do you insist on trying to make out Eric doesn't believe Israelis were behind the USS Liberty attack? Eric highlights how the Israelis did the actual attack. He also highlights who commanded it at the very top, unlike you. Why are you twisting all these things and looking very silly in the process? It's daft. Mr. Tex-Mars is a giant in all this, according to Alex CIA Jones. Well, Mr. Tex-Mars is a giant. Yeah, he is. He's a giant of pies and lies. Pies and lies. P-I-E-S. All these years of Tex-Mars, and I had to find Eric Phelps for the truth. Well, that's a good show, isn't it? You've been what, 20 plus years, Alex? Well, I've only been 7 years and I've gone higher already. Aren't you ashamed at that? I would be. Oh, again, Alex comes out about some amazing discoveries by Tex-Mars against Eric Phelps and so-called others. Boring. So now Alex goes again one step further and tries to imply Eric Phelps worships Israel and not Jesus Christ, the true teachings of the Bible. Well, listen, Alex Jones, who always speaks of Christ and Jesus Christ, for God's sake? It's Eric Phelps. He's always trying to get us. It's like I was talking to him about religion. He says you don't need religion, you need to be in Jesus Christ. Yeah, we don't need religion as such. So there's one little example of his Jesus Christ. Seriously folks, I'm worried how at one time I actually followed these buffoons and hung on to their every word. I mean, it's a very scary thought. It's nice to now have confirmation on what I've found out about these sorts of cretins. Alex then moans because he's expecting people to say Eric's talking of these mythical flying saucers again, but don't. They don't, Alex, because Eric does not speak on flying saucers and nukes. You know, I mean, I seriously believe you're not only controlled, but you also have a screw loose, for real. You're living in Gaga land, my friend, and actually, what's worse, you believe in it. I mean, please someone take this guy to Legoland and before putting him in a mental institute, because that's where he needs to go. But probably at night he probably does go to a mental institute controlled by the CIA when they're pumping some more stuff into his photographic memory, if he's got one, you know. Shame he don't photograph the true teachings up there, isn't it? You know how you claim, Alex, that all Jesuit exposers are ex-Catholics who must have been abused, right? I mean, I'm starting to wonder if you've been down to Disneyland yourself as a young puppy. Did you ride a carousel much after your torture? Two can play this game. Mr. Tex-Mars, what is this order of the Jesuit? Exactly what you're talking about. The order of the Jesuit. You mean the Jesuit order, or the Society of Jesus, I presume? Mr. Tex Mars, Jeff Rents is a Vatican agent, because he once again is a paid shill like yourself in order to put over British intelligence wishes. Whilst on the subject of British intelligence, I may say, why is it that hardly any of you US citizens, truth, frauds, ever mention these? Why is it that when British intelligence gets brought up, it's like very rare by you guys, if at all? I mean, why is this when British intelligence controls and created your CIA and the Mossad? Why is it when British intelligence is riddled throughout the United States, controlling everywhere? You always just focus on the piddly CIA and Mossad. Why is it? Jeff Rents is an out-and-out Jew baiter who denies Vatican control and Vatican crimes at high level. Jeff Rents has also lied about Eric Phelps, like you're doing now, and he claims some nonsense similar to what your CIA Jones did about poor old William Cooper. So, this is why Eric exposes, along with many of us, Jeff Rents. The same Jeff Rents who pushes the false trail conditioning known as bird flu and the HIV virus bunker. The same Jeff Rents who has appeared on British Intelligence Broadcasting Network, the BBC, for God's sake, what we call the Blair Broadcasting Network. Really the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC. The same Jeff Rents that discredits truth with much info, that's bunkum such as UFOs, etc. He's got some right crap on there, it's done by design. On the Cumby issue, this is clear when you read the texts and emails to and from Eric and like on his blog. Just because someone highlights something that's occultist doesn't mean that they're not an agent or even wrong for that matter. And we're to worship these people like a god and not be able to say anything about them. Wrong. Do your homework, Shill. My God, you can see the fear on Alex Jones' face as his fortunes start to go up in smoke. Well, news for you, Alex. You've now poured gasoline on the flame. What a damn screw-up. So, Mr. Tex Mars, do you know the address of your pathetic ZionistChampions.com? Yeah, another stupid move, never allowing people to see the real information totally, highlighting yourselves as the frauds you are. Again, Tex, you bring up the Zionist connection, and apparently Eric not liking anyone bringing up the Mossad. I hear Eric speak of Mossad many a time. Why don't you speak of who created Mossad being British intelligence, William Stevenson, and all the Knights of Malta behind the CIA, which was created by the same William Stevenson? Again, because we can go higher than this piddly Mossad that you seem to blame for everything. You don't seem to like it, do you? Again, you'll hear these people go on about Mossad this, Mossad that, but when we say that it's the Jesuits behind this and that, they say that we're weird. It's a joke. So now Tex gets on to his greatest discovery, and this is nothing more than Eric Phelps is supposedly this great big diamond merchant. First of all, Eric simply asked an Israeli friend, basically, if he knew anybody who sold diamonds in Israel, and he was put on to a man who did. That's because diamonds are best from Israel. Eric's hardly any diamonds, he's hardly had any diamonds from Israel after all. It's really funny indeed, really. Eric's no merchant, his wife simply makes jewellery to try and earn some form of a little living, you know, amongst a few other small business ventures they're using. You know, Eric gets no fat paychecks from millions of blinkered profane sheep and from the intelligence crowd like Alex Jones and Mr. Tex Mars. It's like if I had a friend in Rome who could, like, get me good medicinal herbal tinctures cheaper than my supplier. Would I use them? Of course I would. But if he was a Roman Catholic, I wouldn't know, period. The point is, right, that it doesn't mean that I'm in leagues with Rome, does it? So if I went on vacation to Rome, would I suddenly become a stooge of the order? Of course not. If I did go to Rome, it would be basically to investigate that mysterious house of Gezu, the headquarters of the Jesuit, the same house which most tour operators out there don't even claim exists. I wonder why. You have to go and find it yourself. So the big discovery turns out to be a flop. Tex Mars' great discovery, it's a flop. So Eric publishes his business site selling diamonds from Israel with his name and everything against it. Why would anybody put the name against it if there was an agent of Israel when they could easily be found out? Let's get some sense here, especially with all these fanatic blinkered Zionist haters that are out there, like these Darrell Bradford Smiths and people like that. The only thing I'll give credit to with Darrell Bradford Smith is he did have a guest on who exposed the truth about AIDS and about how HIV is a load of rubbish, like I've earlier explained briefly. I'll give him credit on that. Not many people have anybody on who talks the truth about HIV. And I've listened to a bit of his financial peoples and everything. But the Zionist stuff, there's some good info there, because Zionists are part of the problem, but they are Hofjudens working for their Pope, period. But we still have to recognise their crimes, that's for sure. So basically, you've got these Zionist haters, and Eric's going to show himself up so easily to Zionist haters who are looking for any excuse to get him. As if. Let's get real. I know we live in an illusional Luciferian world, but let's just get real for a period of time at least, you know. A lot of these Zionist haters don't even understand the word, for starters. They don't even realise there's different types of Zionists, and then they don't even understand the word itself as such, and they don't even understand the connection to how it was really Zionist with an S, like the Jesuits were the Company of Zion with an S. The same Zionist haters basically who believe Zionism is the leadership when in fact it's Luciferianism, and they're both very different, contrary to what some may make you believe. So he meets with various unnamed people, does he, Tex Mars? This is what he says about Eric Phelps again. I mean, well, first of all, should we always disclose all our friends around the globe all of a sudden? But Eric has highlighted this great mystery man anyway, who's just his friend. He's an investigative researcher or something like that. I mean, he said his name now. So what are you going to do now, Tex? So by now Alex gets excited about Eric being on an Israeli radio show and going to a Jewish university. So are all Jews bad? But remember, Alex Jones was down at St Edward's Jesuit University. What hypocrites are and dumb ones, you know. They're so hypocritical, it's incredible. What's good for one ain't good for another. You know. I bet the Jesuits laugh the socks off at these idiots. Is it any wonder the conspiracy has continued for so many years thanks to the trash not highlighting the true cause all this time? If you keep highlighting bottom and low levels, you're never going to get rid of it, because the top's still there, the core's still there, or the centre's still there. That little tiny yod in the centre. So you're not going to, they're just going to make a new group and start the agenda again, aren't they? That's why we've gone through this mess for so long. So, Mr. Tex, you want to get onto the IRS issue now, don't you? And maritime law, with Alex Jones. I mean, why are you protecting your Maltese masters and their slave system all of a sudden? Eric isn't trying to get anybody to copy or follow him on his sovereignty status. What about when Jordan Maxwell speaks on this subject and his sovereign status? Why have you had him on your show, Alex Jones? And remember, one of the few people that's talked about maritime is Jordan Maxwell. I do have to give him credit for that. He was the first main guy I learned about that from, along with a few other things. Again, you have to eat the meat, spit out the bones. But Alex Jones has him on his show. Remember, Eric has only fought the last 6 years, and all for zero. I mean, Alex claims everybody has been had for this, but how come Eric hasn't? If you'd followed the truth, then you'd have seen a good while back how the IRS were on Eric's back, and his reply letter to him, which was on my site and everything, which was basically a masterpiece of truth in itself. It was great. Just speaking of the Jesuits and everything to the IRS. Not that most of the compartmentalised side of the IRS would understand what he was saying, but if it was handed to the above, which no doubt it will, then they'll understand what he's saying. So he wrote that letter, and that was very good. Now tell me, Alex, if you think maritime is a fraud, then how come some of the people who try and understand it have actually won their cases, as highlighted on one of your shows recently? Do you honestly think if it's a fraud, how can some have won? Do judges just quit something like that if it's a fraud and they can get somebody? Give me a break. There's nothing to it. You haven't a damn clue on the subject. Now why, Alex, was you promoting Aaron Russo's video, which spoke all through it about the non-existent law for filing tax returns? Yeah, and the fraudulent IRS and the Federal Reserve. You don't speak about the true high top levels of the Federal Reserve and the maritime system behind it properly, do you? But you promoted that video. Why? Do you think Aaron Russo was full of dung as well? Now let's get down to some nitty gritty here. Why did Aaron Russo and other shills not mention HJR 192? HJR 192. 192. And how it works. Eric did, and he warned everybody what they were being told by the likes of Russo doesn't actually work in the way that they're telling you, thanks to this hidden HJR 192. Do your own work, Alex CIA Jones. Also, Eric has helped interview Mr. Peter Eric Hendrickson, and he's the authority on the subject, and who's written an excellent book in its third edition, and the book's called Cracking the Code. Cracking the Code. So please look into that, folks, you know. I mean, it's a good book. Once again, Alex fear-mongering Jones. Ooh, the IRS is the scary daddy and there's nothing, absolutely nothing you can do. Bunk 'em. I'm not saying it's easy for everyone, but it can be done if you know how to do it properly. I mean, it's certainly not for the Alex Jones sheeple idiots who spend 30 minutes a week, if that, on conspiracies, that's for sure. By the way, Mr. Tex Mars, why would Eric want a social security number? A system brought in by a Jesuit Confederate by the name of Franklin Roosevelt back in, I think it was 1934, was it? You know, just 1 year after his Gold Confiscation Act of 1933, the year of the United Corporation States going bankrupt. Then the introduction of this maritime banking law ever since. Do you like being chattel property, Mr. Tex Mars, of the phony Roman 14th Amendment United States? Chattel property, Tex. Yeah, he's a cow owned by its farmer. But you'd know a lot about cows, wouldn't you? The amount you've obviously been eating over all these long years. What a patriot you are, being ruled by a foreign invader out of just a little puny 10 square mile radius called Washington DC. you little, or not so little, US citizen. That Luciferian place of the Roman Catholics. The District of Columbia, that feminine Lucifer within the masculine square of hell. It's a joke, it is. So you like phony capital being symbolic for the Canaanite god El, do you? I thought you hated the land of Israel so much. So now you chattel property of its god, symbolically. Great stuff, innit? So yes, good on Eric for sticking their maritime product number and corporate system up their rear ends where it deserves, basically. Alex Jones claims it's criminal, it's illegal. Well, tell me, Alex, what is the definition of illegal and legal? Why, it's the colour of law, meaning that it appears to be, but it is not, because it appears to be, but it is not. Maybe if you followed your so-called family stance on the Bible and the Word of God, you'd see that English common law, or God's law, is the rule of the land, and not any Roman civil or Roman maritime system superimposed over it covertly. I mean, illegal, don't you mean unlawful? Let's use real terms and exit the Maltese birdcage for once. So yeah, Alex also claims Eric changes his tune to different people. What utter lies and fabrication. Eric is the same regardless of who he's around, period. It is more likely the case that Alex Jones does that. Devious. Next, we'll have another great discovery from Tex Mars about me flying on British Airways, our nation's carrier, being a British intelligence-owned corporation. I mean, I'm a British agent for SIS at Vauxhall. That's me, that is. As if. But that's what somebody like him will come out with shortly. It seems Tex Mars has no clue about the true definition of a racist, which in fact is a recent word, and it was at one time racialist and racialism. I mean, see, it's just more Jesuit gatekeeperism with words. People don't truly understand. It seems these clowns want people to associate Eric now with white supremacist groups such as the Aryan Brotherhood. He's nothing of the sort, and in fact he's giving us the truth about the two very different Ku Klux Klans, for instance. The same Ku Klux Klan which Alex would just say was Albert Pike's. More crafty Peter Pan, Pied Piper, flute techniques. Can you keep hearing that boring repetitive tune? It's called Bunkum. So Alex Jones likes to talk about the Federal Reserve being private, but he won't tell you what order the high-level members are a part of. He won't tell you how Alan Greenspan is an item alter, for instance, the once Federal Reserve chairman, the one that's helped screw us up now with the economy, the core. One last thing on Protestantism or Protestantism. My local church no longer uses the authorised King James 1611 Bible. They also marry people and all the lot of it. So where do you get off claiming Mr. Tex Mars has even married me and my wife? Big deal. Don't say he's a true Protestant and he don't follow Rome. Also, it seems at one point you were trying to mix Eric's Bible study in with organised Protestant churches. Again, folks, if you know Eric Phelps, you know he detests the organised phony Protestant churches. What better way to end than to highlight once again the control of Rowan Shilliams, or I should say Williams, that phony Archbishop of Canterbury in England, possible Pilgrim Society and the Druid, the same Archbishop of Canterbury that goes to the Vatican and walks hand in hand almost with the Archbishop of Westminster, O'Connor. Says it all, doesn't it? And now what I've just said there, and what's happening in the Church of England, or the Anglican Church, now either go back and rewind and listen to Highland Dukes again, or remember what Highland Dukes told you, then it makes real sense. Basically, Alex Jones is 100% controlled and sold out to the Luciferians in reality, and basically the Luciferian money. He's here to divert your attentions away from high-level depth information whilst throwing out much chicken feed. He knows what that means. To draw you in. One of the oldest tricks of British intelligence, used to this very day and the future to come. Alex is merely a spoon feeder and an influence agent all in one. His recent weak attack on Eric Phelps is nothing more than a dangle agenda. He knows what that means. One which has blown up further in his face, basically. You cannot throw lies around like he has and expect not to be caught out. He's been caught out so many times prior to this recent idiot nonsense anyhow. Finally, I'm going to talk about some false accusations about myself. First of all, we have this ZionistChampions.com website, which I believe is Mr. Tex Mars' brainchild. Now I'm going to quote what's put on there. Quote, "The Craig Huxley connection promoting Zionism and Israel." I don't promote Zionism and I don't promote Israel. One of Phelps' more avid supporters is a mysterious character named Craig Huxley from Europe. Huxley, if that is his real name, has a website and internet radio show called Unhived. Well, my site first of all is called The Unhived Mind, and my radio show hasn't got a name because it ain't really a radio show. It's me and the microphone. And basically I've called the various broadcasts after the Vatican, and on the subject I talked about whether it was Vatican off Judans or Vatican control, Vatican Queen. But anyway, back to his quote, right. When told by concerned patriots that H. John Phelps, unbeknownst to most of his adoring anti-Catholic fans, is in fact a merchant of Jewish-supplied diamonds and a rabid Zionist, Huxley admitted that yes, he knows these things, but so what? We must remember Huxley wrote that Israel is simply the 51st state in the United States in reality. Possibly Zionist apologist Mr. Huxley is blissfully unaware that an Israeli spy, Jonathan Pollard, is now locked away in a US prison cell Pollard was convicted of stealing some of America's most precious military secrets and funneling them via the Israeli Mossad to communist China, one of the socialist Israel's fast allies. End quote. So that's what was on the Zionist Champions about me. Now, what I've got to say to this is simple. I'm not mysterious at all, right? I mean, why is this? Is it because I've only been around the last 7 years? Is it because I haven't been to all these con-cons and rubbed shoulders with all these failing wannabe gods of Texas? Is it because I'm at the top of the pot when it comes to the Omega point of control now? Is it a mystery because of how I destroyed the countermeasures in myself of the Maltese birdcage so quickly? Is it a mystery how I did it? Is it because I've been one of the greatest promoters of Eric's amazing truth saying? Is it because without me there most likely wouldn't have been as large a Vatican movement as there is now, destroying you? Got to give credit to others as well, Thomas Richards and people like that. We've all played a part, but my pushing on them various forums early on, before people were getting onto this, started to cause trouble for these agents big time, and they didn't like it. And now it's going big time and they really don't like it. At the end of the day, I'm just a normal Englishman and nothing else. A normal guy who in fact also aids people in trying to understand the frauds and scams more in depth. A guy trying to educate people on cancer, for instance, to protect them from disease, and the quackery creating the disease right now on purpose. And I'm trying to learn myself more, and it's hard having to dodge these various agents that are lying to us. Tell me, Tex and Alex, what have you done in depth on this subject of trying to help people's health properly? I've not only gone into depth on the conspiracy, but also vitology health. And now Alex Jones, speaking of the odd vaccine article, does not count. Yes, Craig Huxley is my real English name on my English maritime birth certificate, with the Huxley surname in all capital corporate letters the last time I looked. Once again, we've heard the pathetic accusations against Eric's little business. We've heard Eric's side as well. I already knew all of this beforehand, right? There's no big deal then, there's no big deal now. Just a bunch of Zionist baiters desperate to keep on to their weak theory that the Jews rule the world. So yes, the state of Israel, to me, in reality, is nothing more than the 51st state of the United States, controlled by the same Roman Cliveden set. Who funds it? Who gives so much money to keep it going? For God's sake, use your brains and your eyes and your ears. And it's controlled by this same Roman Cliveden set, and with its Council on Foreign Relations and the Institute for the Jewish Policy Research. Seems so-called conspiracy exposers have forgotten that all the so-called opposites were brought in as one in reality after World War II. Who controls the United States? Roman controlled Britain. Who controlled the CIA and Mossad both? Who created it? British intelligence again. Who controls them to this very day? British intelligence. Why do we have the headquarters of Russian intelligence down in southeast Denver, housing the likes of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, the FSB, and of course the Glavnoy Razvedi, Antonnoy Upravlenie, the GRU, military intelligence down in southeast Denver, the same Russian intelligence networks who are directly tied to US Homeland Security as advisors and all sorts. So, tell me, my enemies, if Russia is all tied in as one with the Roman control behind the false opposite solution, then what in the hell would Mossad be if Russia's already in the pie with us? Who created the State of Israel, for God's sake? There are no opposites anymore. At the top, they're all working together. Lower down in the pecking pie, some of the illusions are kept for the profane, both out of and inside these organisations and networks. Again, the compartmentalisation working at its best to keep people in the dark. This is why we see the odd French agents, say from the Directorate General for External Security, which is the DGES, getting killed by British Secret Intelligence Service agents and so forth. Compartmentalisation and the continuing of illusions on the profane until the time of full temporal power, global governance. This is why we see a lot of British, US, Israeli intelligence groups all working together to bring chaos to a single enemy. This is why Bosnia is a great location for many of these groups of intelligence agencies, assassination jackal squads, like where they train a lot of them up down in New Orleans with the 4th Army. Again, this Napoleonic system place controlled by the Jesuits. All the terrorists and assassination squads down there being trained. General Jim Joy and all them lot. Now to this Pollard guy, and we see that once again, you're not telling the whole truth. Jonathan J. Pollard isn't what he was made out to be. This is always usually the case. And as we all should know by now, basically, Pollard was the one who helped destroy the US-Iran-Contra. Do any of you like the Iran-Contra agenda? No? So why do you hate Pollard, the fall guy? The same guy who just didn't know what was going down as such at the time. All John Pollard was doing was his job, and he feared for Israel at the time. He worked for the Naval Intelligence Anti-Terrorist Unit, for God's sake. Sorry, some of these people are actually decent people. They're not all complete rogue agents, Most are suckered into the conspiracy compartmentalisation, as we are. The real criminals were, in this case, for instance, and there's more, but Maltese Bush Senior, or Scherf as he should be called probably, George Shultz, Caspar Weinberger, Bud Farlane, Al Shiwima, Yakov Nimrodi, David Kimmich, Amiran Nur, Manucha Gorbanifar, and like so many more, including that Jesuit-trained and Vatican spy Shimon Peres. There was no evidence of any profiting by John Pollard throughout all of it. He was simply worried for the people of Israel, the same Israeli people made up of many decent, hard-working and innocent people, as in all of our lands. Only a handful of greedy, devious papal cretins are the bad guys. So Pollard becomes the fall guy for the sellout Shimon Peres, the same Peres who sold out Jerusalem to the Vatican, who owns now 80% of it through the Oslo Accord. The same Peres who is the most powerful Sabbatean Frankist on Israeli soil. So we see the Israeli involvement in it all, well hushed up by Shimon Peres. The US crowd were too stupid to do the same. So the US got the bashing, whilst Israel was fine and dandy. It was Peres trying to get in on the game, weren't it, at one time? And Pollard was put away while others were killed by Peres. So when people slag off Pollard, if you were a legit agent and saw poison gas by basically Bechtel Corporation or Group over in Iraq, wouldn't you be worried and hand over basically all the data you got on it? Of course you would, if you were not in the mix and knowledge, of course. Remember where Israel panics over anyone having anything in the Middle East. Why wouldn't any agent be worried about Bechtel Corporation or Group making Liberian and Saddam's chemical weapons? The same weapons we were all warned about in the phony dossier thanks to the British SIS and its overseer, the Joint Intelligence Committee of London, itself tied to the US branch, a CIA. They have meetings every week. We see people moving off without all the facts of the matter. My God, poor Jonathan didn't even have half the clearance to do what was claimed of him. Who did have clearance? It was McFarlane again. He did. Anyway, enough of that. Simply people are trying to use a story which fits in with their wannabe theories. And to me, just badger Caspar Weinberger on it, not me. And look into how Al Gore Jr. gave a load of so-called secrets. They're not so-called. And don't forget how he's tied to Maltese Prince Philip. And now he's pushing the phony false threat, what we was warned about with the Iron Mountain report. Global warming. And now there's some crazy made-up rumour that I'm some kind of member of a Protestant Orange Order. This is a new one on me. In fact, I didn't know virtually anything about Protestantism until I came across my mentor, Eric John Phelps. I was blind as the Jesuit had wished. I also do not believe William of Orange was what he was made out to be. In fact, I believe him to be a Jesuit, control, plant, behind the scenes. And again, I actually disagree with Eric Phelps because he believes the opposite. So work that one out. The same William of Orange who quickly created the Central Bank of England, called the Bank of England, in 1694, with the devious Wissel Bank, Wisselselbank, funding behind the same central bank, which the Jesuits had wanted for years prior, in order to control the kingdom via usury, one of Rome's greatest shackles on mankind. It was all from this Bank of England where you had many attempts of centralisation of bank in the US until eventually the Federal Reserve got put in. So tell me, how I'm part of some Orange Order? So anyone now who promotes the Reformation in these people's eyes is simply an agent of the Orange Order, apparently. What utter nonsense! Simply to gatekeep and suppress truth on history and control over the planet. Remember, the Protestant heretic is the most hated person on the planet by the Vatican controllers. Remember their Council of Trent cursing us with death over 100 times. You know, the same Council of Trent they will not forget or destroy. True Christians are the most hated of all Rome's enemies. And this is why the Society of Jesus have destroyed the Reformation and almost all real knowledge of it. Wake up before it's too late. I'm starting to wake up to this religious side of it. But I will not be debating or in bickering with this Noel character.
Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel, Israel.
Under the name of Ogner on the web, from Switzerland I think it is, or Sweden, whichever. I do not waste my time with people of such lacking knowledge as evidenced in his pathetic attempt to debate Eric John Phelps the other day on First Amendment Radio. A man of only 5 years' experience, and it shows from how lacking in scope he is. I'm 7 years' experience, only 2 years ahead, but I was onto the order within the first 3 years, with an open mind all round. That's what you need, an open mind. Listen, go over and over. Noel is simply a man who's like a child in a sweet shop, all excited and blinkered by the Zionists. Also a very abusive man who I will not roll with. He swears and all sorts. There's more swear words than information basically, which is the case with most of these people. I've fought the best and I've won, and I'm not going to waste my time with this little character. I hear Darrell Bradford Smith's behind him. I don't know, I don't really care. Man, right, with a name based around the ancient Canaanite god El.
Israel.
I mean, where's Canaan? It's Israel. Israel. El. His enemy. I thought that was funny. Enjoy your Jewish origins of your name, Noel. N-O-E-L. There's no time to be wasting fighting with these clowns, basically. I mean, we have to just push forward with our knowledge and wisdoms, and to carry on as normal, getting the word of truth out to the peoples on the real enemies finally, you know. So I like to point out that this Noel takes his handle, you know, his nickname on the web, from Ringo of the Beatles, Ringo Starr. He adores the Beatles. That Tavistock Institute creation of social engineering, the same people that were behind training up Henry Kissinger, I think it was with R.V. Dicks, was it? D-I-C-K-S. It's an institution for social engineering. So let's just look at this name, Ringo Starr, just for a minute. We have a ring, R-I-N-G, and the O. There's your ring, which is a circle, and a O, which is a circle, representing El, the Canaanite god, again, being the planet Saturn and its rings. You have the circle, which is a representation of the feminine energy, and the yoni, the female organ, and Lucifer, the planet Venus. So there's your ring O. But then, of course, you have the star. And what's usually the star? Yes, a 5-pointed pentagram, which represents the planet Venus and Lucifer, the feminine once again. So you've got the circle, which is the ring, which represents the planet Saturn, and it's also the female, so it's the two together, the hermaphrodite, the masculine and the feminine energies, and linked with the hermetic orders. But yeah, you've got this star, and what's usually the star? It's a 5-pointed pentagram, isn't it? Again, representing the feminine and planet Venus. Once again, the 5 of Lucifer and the female. Very symbolic and an absolute laugh when attached to this clown called Noel. True Ringo Starr has a fascination with the Masonic law of 5 and signal. He throws an awful lot around what you're led to believe is the victory sign of Winston Churchill, that Maltese knight and druid. Let's remember how the Beatles' name comes from the scarab beetle that the Egyptians worshipped that was sacred. Remember these people and the continuation of the Egyptian mysteries religion, the enemy of Christ and the god Adonai. Anyway, this has been quite a long broadcast now, and I'll end it at this current time. I hope you enjoyed it and got something of worth from it. I will not be bothering with Alex Jones again or Tex Mars. I've made my point and they've made theirs, which is screwing themselves up, so there's no need to go there anymore. And I'm not going to be playing around with phony Zionists. I hate these Ringo Starrs, so they can bait as much as they want, but it's not going to work. Their lies can be seen through, and will be seen through. So I hope you got something of worth from it. Some of the beginning information had been spoken about before by a few true good patriots. I thank them and you for spending your precious lifetime on me and my teachings, basically, and I hope you can soon see, if not already, what's going on in this world. So basically, as usual, all I've got to say is death to the Society of Jesus.